Clashing swords with all his might, our boy tries to block his opponent's brutal attack. But the impact is so heavy that the kid stumbles back with a pained groan. The rival quickly seizes the opening, landing a solid kick that sends our guy flying. With wide eyes, our little hero can barely believe the guy's insane speed. Without wasting a second, the enemy leaps through the air to deliver the final blow. But meeting him head-on with courage, the kid parries the attack in a shower of sparks. Pressing his blade mercilessly, the opponent gives no ground as our hero indignantly asks what this is all about. Looking him dead in the eye, the guy just apologizes and tells it like it is, saying he doesn't want to bite the dust either. In that instant, shock plasters our MC's face upon hearing this cowardly confession. With a cry of rage, the kid is thrown backward by a blast of energy from the traitor. Sliding across the grass to stay on his feet, he struggles to regain his footing. Focusing completely on the fight, the kid raises a hand and firmly announces he's ending this in 3 moves. Mocking him, the rival repeats the exact same phrase with an arrogant smirk. But rage consumes our boy, who glares at the man with fire in his eyes. Charging forward with everything he's got, our hero shouts that he doesn't even need 3 movesh going to finish the guy in 3 seconds. In the blink of an eye, the kid dashes forward laser-focused, while the villain just gives a cynical little smile like someone with a plan. From a distance, a big shot on horseback just watches the brawl unfold with a mysterious look on his face. Our hero's steady footsteps quickly echo across the battlefield. And gaining more and more speed, he prepares for the perfect strike. Slashing through the air with absurd force, the kid launches his attack, but the rival dodges with irritating ease. Getting right up next to his ear, the traitor whispers some dark advice about not abandoning your partners. In the same second, their swords clash again in an impact that makes everything around them tremble. In our MC's mind, the memory of a mysterious figure who said the exact same thing in the past flashes before him. Losing focus for a moment, the kid feels the weight of those words and his guard weakens. His feet immediately falter, completely breaking his defensive stance. But out of nowhere, 2 cloaked figures in skull masks appear in the middle of the chaos. Taking advantage of the distraction, the opponent shoves our hero back with all his might, creating distance. Right after, a colossal magic ice attack explodes exactly where the two had been fighting. Sent flying by the brutal impact, the guards let out desperate screams of pain. Even the big shot's horse panics, rearing up as the guy, completely confused, tries to calm the spooked animal. Totally in shock, the noble gulps, watching the bizarre destruction unfold right in front of him. Amidst the thick smoke, the traitor is already seen leaping away from the explosion with unnatural agility. And faking desperation, the scoundrel lets out a loud, phony scream as if he'd been hit dead on. Realizing the setup, the suit clenches his teeth, fuming with rage at the guy's audacity. At that moment, the traitor lands perfectly near the horse, already drawing his sword, which is crackling with dangerous purple lightning. Pointing the blade at the big shot's neck, he scoffs, asking if the rich boy knows how to fight too. With a look of superiority, the noble tells the guy to back off and not underestimate his skills. Soon, an expression of fury takes over the rich guy's face, who refuses to take the disrespect. Firing an insane electric blast from atop his horse, the noble attacks, but the rival slides back, escaping unscathed. Despite the immense pressure, the traitor lands smoothly on the ground, gliding without a single scratch. However, a bizarre detail catches the villain's attention, and his eyes widen instantly. Suddenly frantic, the rich guy starts screaming at the top of his lungs for the enemy to stay away. Behind him, the 2 assassins in skull masks already have their daggers ready for a fatal strike. Gathering monstrous energy, the suit screams his lungs out, shouting that he'll be the one to finish the traitor. But maintaining complete composure, the villain just watches the whole scene without moving a single muscle in his face. In the middle of a lightning tornado, the rich guy yells as magical power overflows from his body. A giant, rune-filled magic circle quickly forms, illuminating the entire field in purple. Our hero recognizes the spell from a distance and is completely shocked, muttering that this is crazy. Sensing the absurd spike in magic, the traitor gets into a combat stance, noting that he's detected a dangerous power. Still, he grumbles under his breath with that bored expression, saying things are starting to become a pain. Suddenly, the scene cuts to a chaotic past, showing humanity's last fortress completely engulfed in hellish flames. On the castle walls, a colossal explosion sends giant chunks of stone flying everywhere. The main tower then crumbles with a deafening roar, raising a cloud of pure destruction. Amid the rubble, a wounded warrior in armor breathes with great difficulty, trying to stay conscious. And walking slowly through the fire, a demonic being coldly informs him that he's the only survivor of the massacre. Dragging a monstrous flaming sword, the monster approaches, in no hurry to finish the job. With enormous horns and a look of pure evil, the demon lord Colin Hall reveals his intimidating presence. Completely beaten, our warrior remains on his knees, bleeding and clutching his chest, too weak to stand. The look of pure defeat is stamped on his battered face, knowing there's nowhere left to run. Maintaining a mocking tone, the villainous lord praises him for continuing to fight despite being the last bug standing. Maliciously, the demon flashes a sinister smile and says that because of this courage, he'll let the warrior choose how he wants to check out. Bleeding and with pure hatred in his eyes, our hero mutters through clenched teeth that the end will be right here. Deep in that tired gaze, the cruel, heavy doubt of whether this is really the end of the line for humanity flashes through. Going back 1 year in time, the memory shows the bizarre and dark day when monsters began their invasion of the royal capital. Despite fighting bravely, the common soldiers were mercilessly slaughtered, falling defenseless before the magical beasts. Winged creatures crossed the city skies, spreading terror as a harsh truth about the use of magic came to light. Unfortunately, this so-called magic power was an exclusive privilege of the pure-blooded silver spoon nobles who thought they were gods. In the city squares, elite mages raised their arms, proudly creating shining defensive circles. And firing destructive beams of light, they annihilated the lesser demons, believing they would be the nation's great heroes. With a violent boom, the magic blew up the enemies, showcasing the strength of that class that considered itself untouchable. However, from the smoke emerged immense demonic silhouettes, proving they hadn't even imagined the real threat. A terrifying red spell then completely nullifies their defense, showing that the humans' overrated magic was nothing. Bringing on the apocalypse, a colossal fireball falls from the sky, swallowing the castle and proving that for them, this was child's play. Completely panicked, one of the supreme nobles freezes in terror, watching his demise arrive from above, unable to do a single thing. In the end, the result is the entire city burning, reduced to ashes, while a lament of regret echoes in the air. Lying broken on the ground, our hero bitterly mourns the imminent end. At that moment, a glowing magic book floats in the air as the kid thinks how different things would be if he'd found it sooner. The scene then focuses on our MC, standing and bleeding heavily but still holding on strong. With a cynical smile, the demon lord mockingly asks if the boy has chosen how he wants to kick the bucket. Turning his back, the villain coldly suggests he wouldn't mind tearing off his limbs or even burning the poor guy alive. Lowering his head, our boy mutters that the monster talks way too much. Utterly surprised by the audacity, the demon raises an eyebrow, not understanding the kid's nerve. Gripping the hilt of his sword tightly, our hero announces it's time to use his secret move, as there's no other choice. Without a second thought, he leaps through the air and tells the lord to shut his mouth once and for all. The next instant, their blades clash, sending sparks flying, and the horned one lets out a surprised exclamation. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the hero puts all his remaining strength into this suicide attack. With an absurd impact, the kid's sword nearly makes the demon lord stumble backward. At that moment, the villain's expression changes, showing genuine shock at that raw power. Twisting his body, our warrior follows up with another violent slash, giving no room to breathe. Caught completely off guard, the lord lets out a startled roar as the attack hits him square in the chest. Dragging his foot on the ground, the demon tries to stop his retreat from the brutal impact. But quickly regaining his footing, the horned one scoffs, asking if a mere human thought he could win with just that. With a malevolent laugh, the monster thinks he's the absolute master of the situation. But out of nowhere, several invisible cuts slash across the villain's body, making him roar in pain, not understanding where they came from. Outraged, the lord bellows that it's impossible for human swordsmanship to even scratch his perfect skin. Cold and calculating, our MC mentally agrees that a common technique would never work against this guy. The focus quickly shifts to the warrior's trembling hands, gripping the weapon with all his might. Enveloped in a sinister blue aura, he reveals that he's using the forbidden sword, capable of devouring its user's own soul. Without missing a beat, the kid rushes his target again like a bolt of lightning. Then an insane sequence of blows explodes across the scene, turning into a veritable storm of sparks and fire. Dodging by a hair's breadth, our hero escapes a deadly flaming punch from the giant. Immediately, the MC notices the enemy's guard is wide open and prepares for the fatal strike. In a clean and relentless cut, he severs one of the demon lord's arms. Furious, the monster grinds his teeth, feeling the mind-numbing pain of the amputated limb. However, in a bizarre reflex, the villain catches the kid's blade with his remaining hand and scoffs at the so-called forbidden technique. With a sadistic smile, the Horned One says that maybe the boy would have had a chance if he'd used it in a sneak attack. Suddenly, the sound of shattering glass echoes as our hero's sword begins to crack. The blade suddenly turns to dust in the kid's hand, destroying his last line of defense. Seizing the opportunity, the demon uses his own weapon to impale the boy, remarking that he came very close. With a hateful scream, the Lord finishes the attack, driving the sword through our warrior's chest. In that second, a colossal explosion of flames engulfs the entire scene, wiping out what was left of the field. Amidst the smoke, the MC's body remains standing, but now completely still and lifeless. Even so, the young man's consciousness laments that all that sacrifice wasn't enough to save humanity. Clenching his teeth in frustration, he feels the weight of defeat crush his soul. Slowly, the warrior's body finally gives way and falls backward toward the dirt ground. In the distance, the demon walks away, grumbling that losing an arm was the most that human managed to take from him. As his vision darkens, our hero mentally apologizes to all his fallen comrades in arms. As a final glimpse, the monster's victorious face confirms that the battle is truly lost. Finally, the body hits the dry ground, marking the definitive fall of the last survivor. Right then, that same mysterious book from before reappears, stained with the kid's blood. Out of nowhere, blue magic circles begin to spin intensely around the bloody book. Waking up slowly, our MC opens his eyes, confused, and wonders how he's still breathing. Looking around, he realizes he's floating in a dark and completely bizarre space. At the same time, the memory of the demon Lord Colin Hall tears through the boy's mind like a living nightmare. Getting into a defensive stance, the kid shouts, asking who's hiding in the shadows. Soon, a look of pure shock takes over his sweaty face. Right in front of him, the magic tome floats, emitting a powerful and ancient aura. Without blinking, the hero recognizes the artifact, muttering in awe that it's a rare grimoire. Shining brightly, the book begins to speak telepathically, revealing that the boy's blood awakened it from a long slumber. Processing the information, our hero repeats the words, perplexed by the promise of starting all over from scratch. Clenching his fist with renewed strength, determination once again burns heavily in the young man's veins. Filled with hatred and hope, he swears that if he can really restart his life, things will be very different this time. With a focused and deadly gaze, the boy accepts the magical proposition without a second thought. The book's pages flip quickly on their own, as the voice promises to teach him true magic to surpass anyone. In that instant, a blinding light engulfs the warrior's body, preparing him for the insane leap through time. As if reality were made of glass, the entire space shatters into thousands of gleaming pieces. Plummeting through this temporal void, our hero swears vengeance, carving the demon lord's name into his memory. Focused on retaliation, his gaze guarantees that this time, he will crush the villain without mercy. Amidst the dimensional shards, the grimoire finishes the spell, saying it will show him a new future. Cutting straight to a scorching sun, the scene shows a crowd roaring for blood in a filthy coliseum. Blinking heavily, our MC wakes up disoriented amidst the hellish and suffocating roars. Looking forward, the boy finds himself in a sand arena, facing a giant brute armed with an absurdly large hammer. Confused by his own clothes, he realizes he's only holding a crappy little sword and an old wooden shield. With no time to think, the enemy gladiator brings his hammer down with force, aiming to smash his head like a watermelon. Dodging on reflex, the kid instantly understands that he's gone back to the past, right to the time when he was just a slave. In the stands, the rich nobles cheer with joy, betting on our boy's bloody demise in the arena. Finding amusement in others' misery, a noble in a suit named Viscount Slaith enjoys the little horror show from his box seat. With a sick, sadistic smile, the rich guy explains to his guests that commoners are only good for entertaining the elite. Down below, the giant leaps with all his might, aiming a fatal blow straight at the hero's chest to end the fight. But keeping his absolute cool, our hero faces death head-on, completely ready to turn this game around for good. With an absurd crash, the giant smashes the ground, shouting that they are just pawns. In the stands, the rotten nobility erupts in laughter, finding the scene of pure violence to be the greatest thing ever. Completely frenzied, the audience chants the brute's name in unison, demanding more blood. With a maniacal smile, Viscount Slaith revels in the slaughter about to happen before him. From above, you can see the entire arena vibrating as the energy of death fills the place. Staring at the sandy ground, our MC finally connects the dots and realizes where he's ended up. In his mind, the exact memory of that merciless executioner from the past comes back, confirming his suspicions. Surprised by the lack of reaction, the giant lets out a grunt, not understanding his opponent's bizarre composure. With a swift movement, the kid dodges the brutal attack, realizing he's truly returned to the time when he was just a gladiator slave. Shocked to see magic circles on his own hand, the boy figures out that the awesome grimoire has fused with his body. Our hero's gaze quickly changes, focusing on a new and daring possibility to turn the tables. Planting his foot firmly on the ground, he prepares to strike with a speed he never had before. Like a flash, our MC charges forward, cutting through the wind with the crappy sword in his hands. Giving no chance for defense, he lands a perfect upward strike, vowing that the change starts here. Caught by surprise, the brute groans in pain as the kid mentally focuses on destroying his former destiny. In a fraction of a second, the blade severs the giant's arm, causing a red fountain to gush everywhere. With a stylish backflip, the warrior lands smoothly and untouched on the sandy ground. Completely focused, the boy seethes with hatred, remembering that he needs to prevent the demonic apocalypse of the future. In complete shock, the stands go wild, unable to believe the lightning-fast turnaround that just happened. Faced with this, our MC concludes that the only way out is to master the magic of that ancient book as quickly as possible. However, he knows that as just a humiliated slave, that would be impossible, so he needs a brilliant plan and fast. With his eyes fixed on the luxury box, the hero decides he needs to catch the attention of the real bosses of this place. High above is Marquis Darius Hall, the noble big shot the boy needs to impress to infiltrate the wealthy family. Staring at the authorities from afar, our hero promises he'll resolve this much faster than in his previous life. Furious with the turnaround, the suit Slaith grumbles that the entire common folk bet their coins on that useless giant. Whispering to a henchman, the rich guy confesses that the people thought it was impossible to take down the monster favored by the nobility. Soon, one of the organizers receives a cowardly order and gulps, knowing he can't go against the boss's wishes. Desperate, the middleman prays mentally for our kid to lose the fight, or it's his own head that will roll. Meanwhile, the boy understands the whole gossip, realizing that Slaith wants to use him as cannon fodder to please the elite. With a sharp mind, our warrior decides to use this same dirty tactic to his advantage to secure a spot in the Hall family. Taking a deep breath, the kid plants his feet and adopts a completely intimidating combat stance. Without wasting time, he points his old sword at the gate and bellows for them to send in the next opponent at once. Pissed off by the slave's audacity, the Viscount slams his fist on the balcony, letting out a muffled curse. The other rich folks quickly start demanding explanations, asking if the plan wasn't for the big guy to win the match. Panicking, one of the nobles complains, trembling, that he threw a ridiculous fortune on this supposedly fixed bet. To try and put out the fire, Slaith stammers, asking for calm and blatantly lies, saying the defeat is all part of the show. Away from the commotion, two mysterious high-ranking suits analyze the blow with great attention. Cold as ice, the Marquis comments that the precision of that cut was something not even the Empire's greatest knights could pull off easily. With a chuckle, his partner agrees, finding it awesome to see the kid defying Slaith's orders live. Down in the arena, several gladiators are already charging our MC, roaring, ready for a massacre. In the box, the Viscount tries to calm his partners, promising that this illusion of victory will make the crowd spend even more money. With his ego soaring, the scoundrel guarantees that the bloody script remains under his complete and absolute control. But behind his smile, he's seething with rage, promising that in the next fight, the cocky kid will be sliced up without mercy. Cut to the arena, and our hero already has his foot on the chest of another defeated foe, while the audience chants his name nonstop. In total disbelief, the rich guy's eyes bulge, almost popping out of their sockets as he watches the scene. Drooling with rage, he pins the organizer against the wall, demanding to know why this farce didn't follow their dirty agreement. With the vein on his forehead about to burst, the suit goes ballistic over the slave's absurd audacity. Without any scruples, the Viscount bellows, ordering them to release all the gladiators at once against the boy in a cowardly move. From his box seat, the Marquis just crosses his arms, finding the widespread chaos more and more interesting. At the same instant, the iron gates swing open, and a horde of armed fighters invades the sand, marching to the slaughter. Slicing through the crowd, our MC remembers that in his past life, the Marquis fought for a world where everyone could use magic equally. Surrounded on all sides, he focuses on the main plan, to prove his worth right here and gain the big shot's trust. But he knows winning the fight isn't enough. He needs to put on a true spectacle of strength to be truly noticed. In an act of pure defiance, the kid opens his arms and challenges the goons to come at him all at once. Like pouring gasoline on a fire, the audience completely loses control, thinking the slave is a suicidal maniac. Seizing the opening, a brute leaps forward, aiming a deadly axe blow right at our hero's head. With chilling composure, the warrior doesn't move a muscle, just waiting for the exact moment of impact to act. In the blink of an eye, he dodges the axe and immediately follows up with a sequence of cuts, taking down the entire front line. Completely humiliated, the enemies panic, not understanding how they missed a target that seemed so exposed. Without losing rhythm, our MC's blade dances through the air, slicing the next unfortunate soul who dares to get in his way. In a clean, brutal move, the boy slashes his opponent's chest, sending a red shower washing over the arena from end to end. With the dead eyes of a true war veteran, he doesn't even blink at the heavy damage he just caused. Trying their luck, two spearmen charge together, screaming like madmen to try and pierce the kid's impenetrable defense. He quickly stomps down, crushing a fallen warrior's weapon and stopping the enemy's charge in its tracks. The counterattack is immediate and devastating, shattering their spears and sending the two jerks straight to the dirt. Sneakily, a coward tries to attack from behind, believing he's finally found the perfect blind spot. With all his might, the goon brings his sword down, shouting in excitement, thinking he's secured the prize for the kill. But out of the corner of his eye, our hero had already tracked the move long before the guy even took a breath. Gripping the wooden hilt, the hero prepares a block that's going to break the poor guy's spirit. In a colossal shock of blue energy, our boy's sword cuts through the attack and the enemy in half, causing bizarre damage. From the collision, a gigantic pillar of light erupts, tearing through the arena's sky and blinding everyone with the impact. From up high, the Viscount's face loses all color as he stares at a level of power completely irrational for a mere slave. To make matters worse, the gladiator's shattered blade flies like a missile and embeds itself in the wall of the VIP box. Amidst the dust, the Marquis remains standing and completely unshaken, not retreating a single millimeter from the danger. Totally paralyzed, the scoundrel Slaith drools in terror, realizing he was a hair's breadth away from becoming a roasted noble kebab. Stepping firmly on the broken sword, our MC shows that the game is officially over. With a dark look, the boy readies his old blade, prepared for the next step of his crazy plan. Raising the grimy weapon, he points it directly at the big shot's box without a hint of fear on his face. Foaming with rage, the Viscount vows to make the slave pay dearly for this public humiliation. High above, the rich guy screams like a madman, while the Marquis just silently observes the destroyed wall. Cold as ice, the Lord remarks that the pawn has become a player and completely ruined Slaith's little show. Without a shred of pity, the white-haired big shot says that a rebellious slave who shows his fangs deserves the ultimate punishment. Startled by the heavy suggestion, the coward's eyes widen, asking if they should just finish the boy right there. Maintaining his superior pose, the Marquis questions if the suit has forgotten the basic common sense of the nobility. Beside them, the other rich folks gulp, feeling the pressure of the sinister conversation unfolding. Slamming his staff on the ground, Slaith accuses the Lord of still chasing those false ideals of equality. Suddenly, a sinister green energy begins to glow in the scoundrel's hand, threatening to destroy everything. In the rich guy's mind, the ancient story comes up that magic was a divine gift to create an absolute and unquestionable hierarchy. Full of arrogance, the Viscount asserts that nobles are representatives of God and accuses the Marquis of being a blind heretic. Pointing the glowing magic right in his partner's face, the coward asks if he intends to challenge divinity in the middle of the Colosseum. With a smirk, our hero finds all that religious babble happening up there amusing. Down below, the entire audience begins to whisper, not understanding what the big deal is with this whole mess. In the midst of the confusion, one of the suits panics and orders the Divine Guard to be summoned to arrest the slave immediately. Staring at the box with bloodshot eyes, the kid calls out the Viscount's name loudly, silencing the crowd. In a completely mocking tone, he announces that if the rich guy is truly God's right-hand man, he needs to come down and prove it in a brawl. Boldly challenging him, the boy tells the noble to fight him in the name of the so-called Almighty. Utterly shocked, the stands go wild, thinking the commoner has completely lost his mind and just wants to hasten his own demise. Making disgusted faces, the other aristocrats condemn the suicidal warrior's absurd petulance. Silent and calculating, the Marquis just watches the boy's audacity without interfering in the conflict at all. Stomping in anger, the Viscount mutters heavy curses, calling the hero filthy trash. Overflowing with hatred, the suit prepares his green spell, vowing revenge for having his plans and his god mocked in front of everyone. Leaping from the box like a madman, the villain unleashes all his magical power directly toward the sand arena. In that exact millisecond, our MC's eye gleams as he hears the mysterious voice of the grimoire calling his attention. Before him, a holographic panel appears, detailing that the Viscount has a ridiculous level of wind magic and almost no real talent. Confident he's about to slice the kid to pieces, the rich guy shouts that he's going to grant his suicidal wish right now without any pity. Completely calm, our warrior doesn't even blink at the uncontrolled noble's blind rage. Clenching his fist, the kid awaits the impact while the suit yells, promising to send him straight to the afterlife. Full of himself, the Viscount is absolutely certain that this attack is a one-way ticket to the end. In the stands, the big shots are already placing bets on how many pieces the slave's body will be sliced into by the wind blade spell. Fierce and loud, the green hurricane rushes forward, mercilessly tearing up the arena floor. Pointing his finger, Slaith tells the Marquis to take a good look at the overwhelming difference in power between a lord and a mere slave. But the dust settles and our hero appears completely fine, with just a torn shirt but not a single scratch on his body. Immediately, the book's panel reveals that the kid possesses a grandmaster level in swordsmanship and a hefty initial magic resistance. Smiling inwardly, the boy celebrates the fact that he's gained immunity to weak magic thanks to the grimoire system. With an ironic look, he mentally thanks this bizarre ability for showing up right when he needed to put on a little show. Calmly, our hero lets the wind hit his chest as if it were the most natural thing in the world. In a quick arm movement, he dispels the entire spell, mocking that it felt like nothing more than a weak summer breeze. In total panic, the rich guy's eyes widen, his heart stopping as he sees his useless magic fail so spectacularly. Behind him, the other nobles also lose their color, stammering, unable to believe the live nightmare. Without wasting a single second, the kid takes off at an absurd speed, tearing through the air toward the stunned villain. Trembling from head to toe, the Viscount tries to draw his own sword, screaming that this can't be real. Even in his desperation, he manages to partially unsheath the blade, acting on pure survival instinct. However, with a deadly leap, our boy lands a heavy blow, completely shattering the suit's weak stance. In a cold sweat, the coward tastes the bitter end knocking on his door far too early. Immediately, the slave's wooden blade stops a millimeter from the noble's throat, paralyzing him with shock. With the villain surrendered on his knees, the hero dominates the scene, proving who's in charge of the Colosseum now. Suddenly, a warning sound from the grimoire beeps in the boy's mind, alerting him to a terrifying mana rapidly approaching. From the sandy ground, several glowing purple circles begin to appear, surrounding the kid's body without warning. Emerging from the shadows, several demonic hands grab the warrior's legs, forcefully pinning the poor guy in place. Completely immobilized by the ghostly claws, the MC grinds his teeth, trying to understand what kind of cowardly spell this is. In an instant, a black claw covers his mouth, muffling any scream or attempted curse. Striding purposefully, a knight in gleaming white armor appears on the field, announcing the arrival of the heavy cavalry. Soon, an entire battalion of elite guards surrounds the hero, accusing the kid of insulting the nobility and mocking God. Pointing his weapon straight at the prisoner, the squad leader decrees the suspect's immediate arrest in the name of divine justice. Straining with every muscle, our hero tries to break free from the dark bonds that are tightening more and more. Imposing and silent, the armored guard just watches the prisoner's desperation without showing the slightest hint of pity. Behind the troop, the legend goes that this elite guard belongs to a fanatical organization that defends noble blood to the death. Being composed only of powerful aristocrats, they have a raw strength that crushes common fighters with a snap of their fingers. Mentally, our hero calculates that breaking this prison spell would be a piece of cake using the magic book's power. On the other hand, he feels the claws digging into his skin and realizes he can't show his strong cards to such dangerous big shots right now. With a glint of pure malice in his eye, the kid decides the time has come to play the craziest card of his life. Forcing his jaw against the filthy claw, he takes all the breath he needs to drop a bombshell in the middle of the Colosseum. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the boy falsely introduces himself as Colin Hall, telling them to release the Marquis' son at once. The armed guards immediately freeze in place, completely shocked by the dirty kid's absurd revelation. Even the Viscount swallows his tears and his eyes widen in terror, repeating the name, unable to believe the nonsense he just heard. In the stands, the gossip catches fire, with the entire common folk swearing up and down that the Marquis never had a second, lost heir. Full of swagger and still in chains, our MC throws it in their faces that the Divine Guard would never have the guts to harm a blue-blooded noble. Inwardly, he lets out a laugh, eager to see how the arrogant elite will deal with this wild bluff he just threw out there. But suddenly, an enraged rich guy warns that trying to steal a noble's identity is the same as asking to be sliced to pieces. Foaming with rage and seizing the chance, the coward Slaith leaps forward with his sword in hand, shouting that the lying slave deserves 10,000 deaths. Desperate, the suit bellows, telling the guard to hold off on the execution. Just then, Marquis Darius steps onto the scene, capturing everyone's attention in the arena. Terrified, the coward tries to explain himself, saying he was just going to put an end to the insolent slave. Blind with rage, the Lord calls his partner an idiot for trying to drag his family's name through the mud. Not understanding a thing, the guards freeze in place, completely confused by the shouting match. In complete shock, the Viscount is left looking like a fool, not knowing how to react to the telling off. Firm in his decision, the white-haired big shot grabs our hero's arm. In a swift move, the Marquis pulls the kid close, showing he has taken control of the situation. Surprisingly, the Lord praises the warrior's courage for standing up to the suit in front of everyone. With a smirk, our hero realizes that his crazy gamble paid off big time. Returning the smile, the Marquis seems to have quite liked the young man's audacity. Face to face with the scoundrel, the rich man protects the boy, using his own body as a shield. The coward quickly bows his head, apologizing for the trouble caused by the Lord's fake son. Full of swagger, our hero retorts bluntly, stating that the suit was the one who started with the insults. Immediately, the Marquis tells the boy to shut up, cutting the provocation short. With a stern face, the big shot informs the troop that he himself will give the cheeky boy a stern lecture. He then dismisses the divine cavalry, telling everyone to return to the barracks. Desperate, the Viscount yells that they can't possibly release that prisoner. With his hand on his sword, the coward warns that he won't let the Lord take the slave away with just this ridiculous little act. A bit tense, our boy watches the suit's madness from up close. Blinded by rage, the scoundrel vows to put an end to the prisoner, no matter the cost. Without losing his composure, the Marquis turns to face the armed threat. Witnessing the scene, the kid lets out a provocative chuckle, amused by the other's desperation. Full of mockery, our hero asks if the threat to kill anyone there includes the big guy next to him. With all the calm in the world, he reminds them that the white-haired big shot is the absolute lord of that entire territory. Furthermore, our hero points to the divine guards who supposedly came to protect the nobles. Cold and calculating, the boy throws it out there that the Viscount's attitude is a true declaration of armed rebellion. At that moment, the rich guy's face loses all color, overcome by pure terror. Completely panicked, the coward backs away, stammering that that's not what he meant by the threat. Utterly defeated, he lets his sword fall to the ground, a heavy metallic clang echoing through the arena. The captain of the knights quickly apologizes for the misunderstanding and backs off smoothly. In a gesture of respect, the entire troop bows, ready to exit the scene and avoid more trouble. Before leaving, the guard leader shoots a death glare, warning that this isn't over for the Viscount. In a threatening tone, the soldier makes it clear that he will report this whole farce to the High Council of the Magic Tower. To make matters worse, he guarantees that his superiors will be in touch about the rich guy's punishment very soon. Truly relieved, our hero lets out a heavy sigh, hand on his chest, feeling the danger pass. Walking toward the gate, the guards agree that they need to thoroughly investigate this Colin character anyway. Confused, one of the soldiers asks how the Lord had a grown son without anyone at court knowing. Curious, they try to understand how a secret of this magnitude was kept for so long. Cutting off the gossip, the captain states with absolute certainty that the boy is not the Lord's blood son, no way. Intrigued, the lackey questions why the Marquis would protect someone so dangerous and resistant to heavy magic. In response, the chief orders them to monitor the kid's every move and breath from now on. Without question, the troop agrees and marches hastily out of the gladiator arena. Far from all the shouting, a fancy carriage travels along the estate's dirt roads toward the castle. Inside, the Marquis lets out a loud, boisterous laugh, completely shattering his earlier serious demeanor. Very excited, the old man praises our boy's award-worthy performance in the Colosseum. Face to face in the luxurious carriage, the two finally have a peaceful moment to talk without spies. To break the silence, the kid thanks him for the valuable help back in the combat arena. Getting straight to the point, our hero understands that the Lord paid a hefty price to free him from slavery. Curious, the big shot leans in, asking if the warrior learned to fight in that savage way in the middle of a war. Impressed, he notes that the boy's movements seem like those of a veteran or someone trained by a legendary master. With a straight face, the hero starts to lie, saying he was born in a poor and distant village. To add weight to the story, he says his parents passed away and the cowardly villagers sold him to the flesh merchants. But the twist in the lie comes when he says a mysterious noble bought him and taught him the basics of magic and sword fighting. Lowering his gaze, our actor feigns emotion, saying this unknown master was like a real father to him. In a calculated way, the kid says this man had a great ideal about the use of magic, but failed at the end of his life. Showing determination, the boy states that his main goal now is to fulfill his late master's dream at any cost. Completely moved by the speech, the Marquis adjusts himself on the seat, impressed by such loyalty and willpower. In the Lord's mind, the magic attacks didn't work because the boy knew the basic theory and had a heart hardened against adversity. With an insane glint in his eye, the rich man realizes he's found exactly the monster he was looking for his cause. In his thoughts, the Marquis sees the ex-slave as the perfect piece that was missing from his chessboard. Full of hope, the old man firmly believes this young man has the raw strength needed to change the world. From the outside, the butler announces with 2 knocks on the door that their journey has finally come to an end. With a slight jolt, the luxury carriage parks at the main entrance of the estate. Under the sunlight, a gigantic mansion worthy of the highest royalty rises imposingly on the horizon. Absolutely colossal, the place shows the true level of the Hall family's financial power for all to see. Right at the exit, the rich man extends his hand and tells the boy to follow him inside without fear. With his feet on the stone ground, our MC hears from the Lord that his life of humiliation is over for good. Immediately after, a heavy warning comes, reminding him that in this snake pit, the rule is survival of the fittest. Without showing any weakness, the kid faces the challenge head-on, completely prepared for whatever comes his way. With his back turned, the big shot lays it on the line, saying he won't be giving any more handouts or help from that gate onward. Cold in his words, the old man makes it clear that passing the next test is exclusively the rookie's responsibility. Confident in his own talent, our hero just nods, confirming he understands the rules of the game perfectly. In a challenging tone, the Marquis places all his chips on the boy, betting high on him. Facing the mansion doors, our MC concludes with a smile that the first phase of his infiltration plan was a complete success. In our hero's mind, the entire documentary of the Hall family plays out, with its nobles obsessed with blood purity and arranged marriages. He then focuses on the story of Marquis Darius, who is seen as an aberration for being the son of a common servant and the former lord. Remembered as an outcast, the old man suffered all kinds of humiliation and prejudice in his own home as a kid. But even with the world against him, the guy trained like a demon and crushed all his rivals until he became the most powerful force in the territory. In the end, he not only seized power by force, but also became the absolute lord and a living legend in the entire empire. As they walk down the luxurious hallway, the Marquis says he couldn't care less about the boy's history as a slave. With a firm stride, the Lord makes it clear that in this house, the past has no value if you're not genuinely tough. With a confident smile, the big shot guarantees that inside, the only thing that sets the rules is pure, raw strength. Facing the kid, the rich man promises to give him anything if he proves his worth, be it wealth, status, or even honor. In a quick gesture, our hero raises his hand, cutting the old man's offer in half and getting his attention. Without beating around the bush, the boy throws the question back, wanting to know just how far this so-called limitless reward goes. Very surprised by the attitude, the Marquis lets out a smirk and tells the kid to just name his price. Completely focused, our hero quickens his pace, confirming that he heard the promise of getting literally anything. With a deadly look, he drops the bombshell, asking what would happen if he wanted the Marquis's own seat as lord. At that moment, the servants in the hallway's eyes go wide, and they drop their trays in complete shock at the absurd audacity. Paralyzed for a second, the Marquis repeats the boy's bold request, unable to believe he heard the demand for his crown correctly. But out of nowhere, the old man bursts into a monstrous laugh that echoes through the entire mansion, finding the audacity to be the most fantastic thing in the world. Laughing like a madman, he says that if the kid has that much confidence, then he should come and try to take his place by force. Observing the scene, our MC mentally concludes that the Lord is truly a man who only respects strength and merit above all else. However, the boy knows very well that this mentality of equal opportunity attracts the pure hatred of nobles, who are fanatical about pure blood. With the laughter still ringing in the hallway, the mood suddenly becomes heavy, cutting the celebration short. The Marquis's expression immediately changes from joy to a tense, deadly silence. Right in front of them appears Countess Katrina Williams, the Lord's wife, alongside her eldest son, Fried Hall. Walking slowly across the carpet, the hag cynically greets her husband and informs him that she was awaiting his return. With a scowl, the lord curtly asks which little bird spread the news of their arrival so quickly. Taking a drag from her fancy pipe, the socialite plays dumb, saying that gossip runs wild through the mansion's corridors. Not giving an inch, the Marquis mutters that he's sure he's being watched by spies within his own home. Fully aware of the poison in the air, our kid already recognizes the Countess as the true viper who rules the shadows of that family. Mentally, the hero remembers that in the chaotic future, it was this very woman who caused the Lord's downfall, trying to destroy his ideals. Even though she's only the second wife, she runs everything and plans to put her spoiled son freed, in power at any cost to maintain the pure lineage. Recalling the past, our hero concludes that it was exactly this woman's trap that he fell into and got screwed over by in his previous life. But this time, with an arrogant smile, the boy vows that the script will be very different, and he won't take any disrespect from some socialite. Interrupting the tense scene, the kid steps forward and introduces himself loud and clear as Colin Hall, the new member of the family. The primped-up heir's eyes immediately widen, stammering as he hears a slave using his sacred surname. Furious, the rich kid takes a step forward, arrogantly asking who the hell that sewer rat thinks he is. Beside him, the hag completely loses her composure and demands to know how a piece of human trash dares to dirty the Hall family name. Without needing to say much, she just gives a sharp snap of her fingers and nods to her personal butler. Getting the message, the goon in a suit immediately moves toward our MC to teach him some manners with a beatdown. Maintaining his composure, Lord Marquis doesn't move a muscle, wanting to see how the kid will handle this first domestic trial. With an absurd reflex, the boy draws the hilt of his old sword before the butler even gets close. In a clean motion, the blade cuts through the air and stops centimeters from the goon's neck, paralyzing the man with fear on the spot. Pointing the weapon in the middle of the group, the kid looks at the Countess and asks if she has any objection to her own husband's orders. Full of himself, our hero openly declares that one day he will be the lord of this place, and tells everyone to kneel and burn that into their memories. Completely silent, the socialite fixes her venomous eyes on the boy, analyzing his suicidal audacity. Foaming with rage, the primped-up heir trembles, clenching his teeth, unable to bear the humiliation of being challenged by a slave in his own home. With a discreet chuckle, the Marquis tries to hide how satisfied he is with the whole mess the rookie has stirred up. In the hallways, the servants whisper, shocked by the kid's petulance, drawing everyone's attention. The gossiping maids also panic, repeating the hero's words as if it were the greatest blasphemy in the world. Cutting through the commotion, the Countess lets out a loud, dry cough, drawing all attention back to her. The goons and maids immediately gulp and stand at attention, fearing the hag's wrath. With a curious look, our MC awaits the socialite's next verbal assault. Letting out a disdainful sigh, the viper finally decides to open her mouth, releasing her pent-up venom. In a tone thick with pure hatred, she decrees that a filthy slave shouldn't have the right to open his mouth near her. In the same second, several guards and maids draw their spears and swords, forming an attack formation against the boy. Screaming at the top of their lungs, the armed women charge forward, ordering the immediate capture of the cheeky kid. But before the first blow lands, the Marquis bellows a weight that makes the mansion walls literally tremble. The Lord quickly steps in front of the boy, raising his hand and stopping the domestic battalion in its tracks. In a calm but threatening tone, he drops the bombshell, saying that everything Colin said is the absolute truth and has his seal of approval. Shocked, with a vein popping on his forehead, the primped-up son yells in disbelief at his own father's insanity. Desperate, the rich kid questions what kind of sick joke this is, putting a beggar in the family's line of succession. Firm in his decision, the Marquis pays no mind to his son's whining and maintains his stern expression. With a fake, venomous smile, the Countess interrupts the argument, saying she now understands her husband's madness. Closing her eyes to plan her next move, she suspiciously pretends to agree with the Lord's crazy decision. In a cynical speech, the hag reminds them that the servants work themselves to the bone there and rarely earn the family's sacred surname. Blaming tradition, she shifts the blame to the boy, saying a beggar can't just show up and demand the title without earning it. Pulling the strings, the socialite sets the perfect trap to fairly screw over the rookie's life. Without beating around the bush, the Countess proposes a direct challenge, claiming that no one will accept the boy if he doesn't prove his own worth first. Staring the Lord down, the Viper asks if he'd be willing to put his newest protege through a trial by fire. Finding the idea reasonable, the Marquis agrees, saying the boy needs to prove his strength to shut everyone up in the house. Without any fear, our hero already knew this challenge was coming and accepts the bet with a confident smirk. Laughing in the face of danger, the kid scoffs, saying just one silly little test is a waste of his time. Foaming with fury, the spoiled heir yells, asking if the filthy slave is afraid of failing the trial. Looking deep into the rich kid's eyes, our MC throws the question back, wanting to know why the heck he would do the test alone. Full of audacity, the boy proposes that the family title go to whoever wins the challenge, regardless of whether they're a blood relative or not. With teeth clenched in pure hatred, the primed-up heir feels the humiliation crush his ego and vows to destroy the insolent rookie. Frozen in place, the primed-up heir imagines the nightmare of having to get his hands dirty competing against the rabble for the title of lord. In a cold sweat, he seethes with rage beneath that superior facade, feeling his pride shatter. Gently tapping his shoulder, the Countess tries to calm her spoiled son before he completely loses it. In a calm, venomous voice, she reminds him that a true noble should never lose his cool or class around the common folk. With a cold smile, the hag tells the rich kid to swallow his anger and not lower himself to the level of a dirty monkey. Full of confidence, she whispers in the heir's ear that the absolute magic he possesses is the true guarantee of victory. Satisfied with the mess he caused, our boy just watches the viper trying to keep her little boy in line. Swallowing his tears, the primed-up one agrees with his mother and instantly regains his snobbish posture. Cutting to a sunny day, the Lord Marquis actually accepted the challenge and scheduled the official succession trial for a month from now. As he walks through the mansion's garden, our MC mentally reviews his plan, knowing that until then he'll have to work hard as a low-class servant. But with a smirk, he finds this humiliation perfect, because he'll have free time to explore the grimoire without the big shots breathing down his neck. Suddenly, a drawling voice cuts through his thoughts, praising the rookie's skill in manipulating the Marquis. Turning his head, the boy comes face to face with a mysterious servant striking up a very suspicious conversation. The guy throws out a feeler, saying he thought the kid was a protege handpicked by some noble from the capital. Maintaining his composure, our hero quickly realizes that this fellow is a spy sent by the Lord's enemies. Continuing the small talk, the spy finds it too much of a coincidence for a talent like this to pop up out of nowhere just when the Lord was looking for a strong heir. Without showing any emotion, our MC listens to the guy's conspiracy theory, who is clearly fishing for information. To the spy's surprise, the kid presses the blade of his sword directly against his neck, in a move so fast he couldn't even blink. Pinned against the wall, the lackey freezes as the boy calls him by name, Mr. Cornell, showing he already knew who he was. With wide eyes, the spy doesn't understand how the filthy slave knows his name when they've never met. With an ironic smile, the hero explains that he exposed the fake merchants the spy paid to lie about his power level. According to the fabricated rumor, the slave was supposed to be just an average fighter, meant to deceive the Marquis and the Colosseum bettors. But in reality, our warrior remembers that the Empire divides strength into very clear levels for fighters and mages. Normally, the vast majority of warriors get stuck at the beginner level, and only a minority reaches intermediate or beyond. But to be part of the elite Divine Guard, the minimum requirement is to have a complete and absolute advanced level. Pressing the blade, the boy questions if the spy really thought the elite troop would back down from a fight against some intermediate-level punk. Completely cornered, the lackey realizes the idiotic flaw in the misinformation plan he concocted. Straight up, the kid tells the spy that if he were really an enemy spy, he wouldn't be drawing so much attention trying to become lord. Confused and in a cold sweat, the goon asks where the rookie is going with all this talk. In a stroke of genius, our MC explains that a spy's true objective is to always target the weakest link in the enemy chain. Extending his free hand, the kid says that if he were a real spy, he'd aim directly for the head butler position. Shocked by the audacity, Cornell points to his own chest, asking if the filthy slave is trying to steal his job. Smiling maliciously, the boy explains that as head butler, it would be much easier to spy on the Marquis' weaknesses without drawing attention. Making his final proposal, the hero suggests a dirty deal where the goon uses his influence as butler to rat out other spies to him. The lackey quickly understands that if he accepts the blackmail, he'll be picking a fight with the entire nobility behind the Lord's back. Full of charm, our hero tells it like it is, saying that to win big, you have to bet big without fear of danger. He warns that if the Marquis falls, there will be no one left to inherit the throne, and the territory will crumble, taking the butler down with it. Cornered, the goon analyzes the risky offer, suspecting the kid has a much darker plan up his sleeve. Swallowing his pride, Cornell lowers his head and tells the boy to follow him to the rabble's quarters. With a cynical smile, our hero realizes he's managed to put a leash on the most dangerous spy in the mansion right off the bat. Cutting to outside the palace, the two walk toward the more distant and ugly buildings on the property. Pointing to the stone barracks, the head butler informs the new slave that he can pick any hole he wants to sleep in. On the way, the kid's memory recalls that the house has 3 levels of servants, where the high-ranking ones suck up to the royal family inside the mansion. The middle-tier ones slave away cleaning the fancy filth in the main hallways, and are allowed to walk in the inner area with the misses. And the bottom of the pyramid is the scum who live in isolation and are forbidden from setting foot near the palace gates, no matter what. Without a shred of respect, the butler explains that the rookie's job here will be to shovel horse manure and chop wood all day. To top off the humiliation, he warns that the newly arrived trash must show blind obedience to the older servants in the shed. With a cold expression, our boy repeats the word obedience, committing the message to memory. Entering the dark and stinking barracks, the kid comes face to face with a circle of sweaty brutes with unfriendly faces. Laughing loudly, the veterans look at the scrawny boy as if he were a piece of fresh meat dropped into a lion's den. Sneaking away, the butler makes it clear that these are the Countess's rules and abandons the hero right there with the pack. With a slight smirk, Cornell is certain that the rabble will take care of the Marquis' protege in no time. Musing over the hag's words, our hero mutters to himself that he understands the dirty game of trying to break him from the bottom up all too well. Without taking a step back, he thumps his chest and introduces himself properly to the troglodytes of the barracks. With a monstrously fake friendly smile, he says he's really excited to work with the guys. The circle immediately erupts in laughter, pointing fingers at the boy and heavily mocking his name. The group's leader approaches, full of swagger, ironically greeting the future great lord of the empire. Shoving the kid, the brute says that the gossip about him standing up to the missus, and the air has already spread throughout the entire staff. Mockingly, another veteran promises to teach the little snob some house manners to take him down a peg. In the blink of an eye, one of the guys smashes a glass bottle, preparing a makeshift weapon to slice up the rookie's face. With the glass shard in hand, the aggressor tells the boy to kneel and repeat that he's happy to work there while slapping his own face. Grabbing the kid's collar, the gang leader squeezes tight, wanting to see the desperation in the rookie's eyes. Without wiping the cynical smile off his face, our MC says that if he's already understood the rules, they'd better stop messing around. And in a brutal, relentless move, the boy delivers a deafening headbutt right to the bully's nose. Caught completely by surprise, his partner's eyes go wide, stammering, unable to believe the lightning-fast damage. Flying backward with a busted face, the leader collapses on the floor like a sack of old potatoes. As the big guy rolls around groaning in pain, the kid doesn't lose his rhythm or his focused, psycho expression. Raising his arm, he prepares to return the favor and teach them how a real warm welcome is done. Like a machine, he brings his hand down in a monstrous slap that nearly takes the head off the aggressor holding the broken bottle. Hitting without mercy, he repeats the same fake line about being excited to work while punching the losers' faces one by one. Driven mad with rage, the other 2 brutes charge forward, screaming that they're going to kill the wannabe lord right there. Grabbing a piece of a wooden chair, the big guy advances blindly, aiming for our boy's head to finish the job. Cold and without a shred of fear, the MC's eyes gleam as he spots a colossal opening in the amateur's guard. On pure reflex, he draws his own sword, preparing a counterattack before the chair even gets close. With a dull thud, the kid uses the hilt of his weapon and sends the 2 idiots flying with a perfect double strike. Landing a direct hit, the kid smashes the brute's face with the sword's hilt, sending blood flying. In a perfect leap, our hero drives his knee straight into the other aggressor's face. Shattering the loser's teeth, the brutal impact makes the big guy roar in pain and fall backward. Sent flying by the blow, the lackey crashes into some boxes, destroying the scenery. Desperate, the last bully retreats, cursing his luck as he sees his partners down. The blade quickly presses against the coward's face, who breaks into a cold sweat of terror. With a psycho look, our hero very calmly asks if the reception was satisfactory yet. Trembling from head to toe, the big guy screams and cries that he is more than satisfied. Satisfied with the answer, the boy sheathes his weapon and warns that it's a good thing they got the message. Thrown to the ground, one of the defeated men mutters curses while spitting blood. Just then, our hero's hand picks up the neck of the broken bottle from the floor. In a bizarre reflex, he turns his head just as the coward attempts a surprise attack, screaming like a madman. Dodging by a hair, the kid just takes a deep breath without losing his posture. Without the slightest mercy, the warrior slices through the air and severs the traitor's arm in a clean blow. The amputated limb falls to the ground, splattering blood everywhere, marking the end of the brawl. Sheathing his sword with style, our MC completely ignores the agonizing screams of the armless lackey. Turning his head, he asks again, full of mockery, if the guys are finally satisfied. In his mind, the plan to tame the spy butler was a success, but the danger in the mansion is still immense. Focused on his goal, the boy mutters, activating the magic grimoire to begin his secret training. Floating in front of him, the ancient book glows as the hero decides he needs to master magic to survive. Memories of the past show that the Viper Countess replaced all the house servants with goons loyal to her. That's exactly why the Lord put the butler Cornell in charge, to try and curb the socialites' reach. On top of that, the spy had the absurd power to veto anyone who tried to become the family's successor. But in his previous life, the butler kicked the bucket too early, leaving the path clear for the hag to take over everything. With his death, the Countess manipulated everyone and put her spoiled little son directly on the Lord's throne. Back in the present, the kid sighs in relief for having saved Cornell's skin, completely changing the future. Stretching out his hand, the hero concentrates energy, knowing that just having magic resistance won't cut it in serious fights. In a flash of light, the boy fires a spell upwards, testing the new powers he's absorbed from the grimoire. Feeling his mind fry, he grinds his teeth as the book's knowledge floods his brain all at once. Completely paralyzed, the hero reports an absurd pain, as if his entire body is being dipped in pure lava. Just then, the system's voice echoes in his head, as a demonic silhouette begins to form in his magical aura. In the air, the dark entity whispers sinister orders of destruction and total dominion over everything. Drenched in sweat, the boy feels his body's limit, thinking this is the grim price for using real magic. Suddenly, a memory of a girl from the past comes to him, saying that training magic was just about closing your eyes and feeling the energy flow. With an ironic smile, our warrior scoffs at the ridiculous difference between the noble's talent and the commoner's effort. Full of adrenaline, his gaze shifts to pure ecstasy, finding the pain of training the most exciting thing in the world. Sparks of pure energy begin to crackle around the kid's hands, showing that he's getting the hang of it. Swallowed by a tornado of dark power, our hero swears through gritted teeth that he will master this power, no matter the cost. Focused on the mission, the hero's eye shines with the promise of not backing down a single millimeter. Outside the shed, a roar of pure triumph rips through the midnight silence, startling anyone passing by. By early morning, the cold water from a bucket washes our warrior's sweaty face after a whole night awake. Soon, the brutes from the barracks stare at the boy, still terrified of last night's destruction. With a firm step, the kid walks out to the courtyard, not paying any attention to the loser's presence. Sighing in relief, one of the veterans confesses he didn't sleep a wink, thinking he'd be sliced up in his sleep. Hearing everything from a distance, our hero gives a cynical smirk, knowing that if he had wanted to finish them, not even their dust would be left. Looking at the glowing panel, the boy sees that he has finally reached the beginner level in magic, focused on the ice element. Full of pride, our hero celebrates the success of his nocturnal training that nearly fried his brain. Aching all over, he decides to go find some good grub to replenish his spent energy. In the main courtyard of the servants' village, an authoritarian shout orders everyone to clear a path by force. The servants immediately bow their heads, trembling in fear as metal boots march across the stone ground. Facing the troop, the captain of the Divine Guard bellows, cursing the commoners and demanding absolute respect. Amid the commotion, a lackey carrying a heavy barrel walks distractedly, not seeing the approaching danger. In a fatal mistake, the poor guy bumps right into the elite squad, dropping his cargo on the ground. Without a second thought, one of the guards delivers a monstrous kick to the servant's chest, sending the unfortunate man flying. Making matters worse, the water from the broken barrel splashes, dirtying the suit-wearing captain's polished boot. Staring at his soiled shoe, the troop leader makes a disgusted face as if he'd stepped in poop. Drawing his sword, the goon soldier immediately orders the commoner's execution right there for the audacity of dirtying the chief. Thrown to the ground, the lackey cries desperately, begging for his life and saying it was an accident. In a false gesture of kindness, the bald captain stops his subordinate, pretending he's going to forgive the accident. Crying with relief, the servant thanks the heavens as the bald man cracks a sinister, purely sadistic smile. Suddenly, the captain's tone changes, dropping a however that sends a chill down everyone's spine. With his hand on the poor guy's face, the villain warns that if his eyes aren't good for looking where he's going, he'll take care of it. Brutally, the monster shoves his fingers in and gouges out the lackey's eyes, making the entire courtyard echo with screams of pure agony. In total shock, the other servants turn their faces, not daring to move a muscle to help. Pissed off, the guard's goon bellows, demanding to know why the scum are still looking at them. With a shout, the troop terrorizes the courtyard, ordering everyone to kneel, but our hero remains standing like a statue. Facing the defiant kid, the soldier freezes with rage as the boy ignores everything, thinking only about breakfast. Desperate at the audacity, the armless brute from the barracks yells, calling for the leader of the Divine Guard. Pointing a finger at our MC, the goon snitches, saying that was the bastard who cut off his hand last night. The bald captain's gaze immediately locks onto our hero with brutal, murderous intent. With a bellow, the guard chief demands the boy's attention as the circle begins to close in. With that same cynical smile, our hero scoffs, asking if the suit wants to lose his hands as a freebie too. With blood on his fingers, the bald villain finds the slave's nerve amusing and promises to break his posture. Sword in hand, the captain invokes the eye for an eye rule, telling the boy to either rip off his own arm or they'll do it for him. Without blinking, our hero draws his old blade, announcing that now he's the one giving those jerks a choice. Facing the captain, our boy asks with pure mockery if he'd prefer to lose an arm or his head. With a boisterous laugh, the bald villain scoffs, saying the elite don't get their hands dirty with the rabble. The suit then points to the side, ordering some random goon to take care of the trash in his place. In that instant, our MC's expression changes completely as he recognizes the figure who was just called. Stepping out of the shadows is Dak, a brutal former champion of the slave arena who now serves as a mid-level guard. Utterly surprised, our hero finds it bizarrely insane to run into the guy in such an environment. In his mind, the memory of their insane fights comes back, where the two survived together, fighting back-to-back in the bloody Colosseum. Beyond the war, the warrior even recalls the rare board games they played in prison to kill time. Together, they had taken down colossal monsters and shared the weight of that miserable gladiator life. Back in reality, the hero realizes his friend is all beaten up by the guards and murmurs his name in disbelief. Gripping his sword hilt tightly, the kid indignantly asks if the former champion is really going to fight like the nobility's obedient little dog. With his head down, the fighter just replies that the house rule is the bottom obeys the middle, and no one can break that cursed cycle. Revolted by his submission, the boy throws it in his face that his friend is being used, but the guy retorts that commoners have no right to complain. With bloodshot eyes, the ex-gladiator warns that those who break the laws must be punished and immediately charges into attack. On pure reflex, our boy dodges the fatal blow, a slight smirk on his face at the predictable rush. Like an uncontrolled bull, Dak unleashes absurd slashes, tearing through the wind without any respite. Focused on the mission, the brute shows he's not going to go easy on his old arena partner at all. From the sidelines, the one-eyed captain cracks a sadistic smile, loving the big dog fight unfolding in the courtyard. But in an impossible move, our warrior disarms the big guy, promising to shatter those disgusting rules into 1,000 pieces. Completely shocked, the guard's eyes widen, not understanding how the kid stole the weapon so quickly. Even the former champion freezes in place, perplexed by the monstrous speed of the boy he thought he knew. The fighter then realizes he's been humiliatingly outmatched in the blink of an eye. Pissed off, the one-eyed man bellows at the top of his lungs, asking if the trash knows who he's messing with. Full of swagger, the suit boasts that he's a direct protege of the heir freed, and defying the guard is signing your own death warrant. Our hero's gaze slowly darkens as the entire troop draws their blades to surround the target. Before anyone can breathe, the hero simply vanishes and reappears with his sword pressed against the arrogant leader's neck. In a cold sweat, the coward tries to maintain his posture, warning that killing an officer won't come cheap. Taking advantage of the distraction, the villain smirks as his goons prepare a cowardly attack from behind the boy. With evil smiles, the soldiers bring their weapons down, certain they're about to slice the rookie to bits. But out of nowhere, the big guy steps in front and takes all the blows, his own back being torn apart in an agonizing scream of pain. Utterly perplexed, our MC's eyes widen as he sees the brutal sacrifice of his friend who just saved his skin. With a sick laugh, the one-eyed captain says he really needed to teach the insubordinate goons a harsh lesson. Thrown onto the stone ground, the ex-gladiator bleeds horribly, his back completely sliced up by the enemy blades. In a violent pull, a soldier yanks the sword from the big guy's body, cursing the poor man as useless trash. Without a shred of pity, the coward grabs the wounded fighter's hair to humiliate him even more in front of everyone. With a sadistic smile, the goon tells the boy to pay close attention to what happens to those who disobey the elite. Consumed by pure fury, our hero shatters the ground, taking off at a speed bordering on teleportation. At that moment, the soldier's pupils dilate, feeling death flying towards him, tearing through the air. Like a lightning bolt, the boy unleashes a devastating slash, sending the bastard flying into a pool of blood. Believing he's found a perfect opening in the attack, the villainous captain cracks a victorious and malicious smile. Cowardly, the one-eyed man raises his weapon to drive it into the back of the seemingly distracted kid. But in a bizarre reflex, the warrior blocks the attack from behind with his blade, without even needing to look at the enemy. In total shock, the guard leader freezes in place, feeling the monstrous strength of the perfect block. Desperate, the suit tries to pull his own sword back, but the weapon doesn't move a single centimeter. Twisting his body, our hero points the steel at the trash's neck, who begins to beg, stammering for him to stop the attack. Pale with terror, the one-eyed man feels the cold edge of death against his own throat, awaiting the final cut. Suddenly, a colossal magic explosion sends the guards flying, saving the chief from certain death by a hair's breadth. With the field cleared, our warrior's gaze meets that of his battered partner on the dirty ground. Without any strength left, the big guy collapses completely, his face hitting the stone with a dull, heavy thud. Even though he's destroyed, the ex-gladiator pulls out a blade and points it at the hero, telling him not to commit any more crimes in there or he'll be screwed. The camera then focuses on the fighter's trembling hand, which is gushing fresh blood through his fingers. Getting the message, the kid lowers his head, understanding his friend's sad and desperate play to try and protect him. Coldly, the boy throws his sword aside and tells the captain he'll let this slide just because of his wounded partner. In an imperative tone, our hero tells the soldiers to get out of his sight immediately before he changes his mind. Indignantly, he asks the brute why the heck he takes a beating in silence when he's so much stronger than those disgusting goons. Wounded, the big guy retorts harshly, saying he owes no explanations to an insolent guy who's already got one foot in the grave. In a slow, painful movement, the fighter drops his weapon to the ground, giving up on that dramatic fake threat. Our hero quickly catches the blade in midair and hands it back to his friend, warning that walking around unarmed is very bad luck. Turning his back, the kid goes on his way, leaving his former partner alone in the middle of the mess. Soon after, the cowardly captain grabs the big guy from behind and shoves his face into a barrel of water, screaming humiliating insults. Trapped in the water, the poor fighter struggles, desperately trying to catch his breath as the chief holds him down firmly. With a violent pull, the villain lifts his face, roaring with rage as the poor guy apologizes, coughing up liters of water. With a cowardly kick, the one-eyed man sends the MC's partner flying, ordering the trash to get out of his sight at once. A goon then quietly questions if they're really going to let the cocky rookie get away with this whole embarrassment unscathed. Full of malice, the chief orders the gossip to be spread that the boy has declared total war on the elite, to isolate the poor guy in the palace. Cast aside, the brute just sheds a silent tear, feeling the weight of humiliation crush his soul. From far away, our MC watches everything in secret, mulling over the question of why his friend doesn't fight back against those worms. Suddenly, the scene cuts to a disgusting mouth chewing food with the utmost sloppiness. At a giant table filled with absurd banquets, the high-ranking servants eat like kings, their bellies bulging with perks. Utterly hypocritical, these suited-up servants thank the supreme god for the luxury provided by the Lord. Right beside them, some maids gossip and laugh about dreams of promotion and focusing on working harder, so the missus will finally notice their service. Meanwhile, in the filthy dirt courtyard, the scum from the barracks say the same prayer to their god in a completely depressing manner. But the rabble's meal is a disgusting, watery slop that looks like old swill for a sick pig. In a pathetic line, the worn-out workers extend their bowls to receive their daily ration in pure suffering. Walking slowly, our hero finally reaches the front of the cauldron, holding his own wooden plate to try and fill his stomach. Humming cheerfully, our kid walks casually through the barracks, focused only on filling his belly after the insane training. But halfway there, he notices a bunch of strange stares fixed on his back. As soon as he touches the table to grab a bowl of food, the trouble starts to stink. In a cowardly attack, a brute throws the entire pot of slop on the boy, yelling that those who don't work don't eat. All around, the crowd of goons lets out chuckles, amused by the public humiliation set up for the rookie. Without any stress, our hero just cracks his neck, realizing the order for total exclusion was already in full swing. Ignoring the circle of idiots, he turns his back and starts walking out of the barracks, leaving the guys confused. One of the big guys yells for him to stop, wanting to know where the trash thinks he's going with such an attitude. With his chest puffed out, the warrior marches through the circle of idiots, telling everyone to get out of his way without a shred of respect. In a complete panic, the mid-level maids scream for the authorities to do something about that cocky slave. But keeping a steady pace, our MC continues walking straight toward the main mansion. And without asking anyone for permission, he grabs a huge loaf of bread from the fancy table and starts devouring it with gusto. Taking a monstrous bite, he throws it in everyone's face that if this is where the elite eats, then this is where he'll have his dinner. Desperate, one of the rich suits yells for the head butler to act and teach the kid a lesson before the countess sees. In the background, the spy butler freezes, closing his eyes to avoid seeing the mess his boss just caused in front of the cream of the crop. In a cold sweat, the butler Cornell tries to put out the fire with apologies and calls the kid to a corner to avoid more trouble. Watching the scene, the suits grumble with disgust, finding it absurd that the slave didn't get an immediate beating. Just outside the luxury mansion, the spy can't take it anymore and asks if the boy has forgotten the number one rule of blind obedience. Laughing with his mouth full, our hero scoffs, saying that obedience doesn't fill an empty stomach. Chewing the stolen bread, he reminds the butler that Lord Marquis said he would reward strength with good food. Changing the subject, the goon adjusts his suit and says he will accept the previously offered dirty alliance. Without beating around the bush, the spy promises to cover the kid's tracks and protect his day-to-day life in the mansion in exchange for a huge favor. With a look full of tension, he reveals the impossible mission of finding a traitor infiltrated within the Hall family itself. Right then, a loud, sharp trumpet sound echoes through the castle walls, cutting through the air like an urgent warning. The butler quickly explains that it's the signal for the emergency hunt in the dark forest to investigate deadly anomalies. Chewing the last bit of bread, our MC swallows the information and starts hatching a dangerous plan. With a mischievous smile, he realizes this mess in the forest could be the perfect opportunity to disappear from the Countess's sight. Cutting to the middle of the dense woods, the giant shadow of a demonic deer tears through the fog in the blink of an eye. Immediately, a volley of crisscrossing arrows flies straight at the creature, embedding themselves in its dark hide. With a terrifying screech, the monster falls, kicking up dust and bleeding heavily, proving the hunt was already intense. Emerging from the bushes with a mocking smile, our boy celebrates the perfect kill like a top-tier hunter. Walking over the dry leaves, he approaches the monstrous body to check the spoils of the hunt. In a cold move, the kid plunges his dagger straight into the beast's chest, forcing the carcass open. At that moment, his eye gleams as he sees the magic core overflowing with pure purple energy. Tearing the bloody gem from the deer's chest, he examines the stone, knowing that in the past, this would just be an ornament for a rich person's necklace. But now, with the help of the awesome grimoire, he knows these cores can be refined into insane potions and buffs. Glancing at the floating energy panel, he confirms that this low-level stone is perfect for testing a basic mana potion. A quick flashback cuts to the butler's shocked face when the kid asked for permission to enter the Forest of Death. Full of himself, our MC had convinced the spy, saying that as a guard's lackey, he'd have no restrictions hunting with the Lord's team. But in the present, the tranquility ends when someone shouts, grabbing his attention in the middle of the woods. Turning his head, he comes face to face with the former champion Dak, furious and calling the boy a dumb amateur. Keeping his cool, the kid notices his partner is still all bandaged up and can barely stay on his feet. Desperate, the big guy charges forward, wanting to pull the boy back out of the red danger zone. In a clean reflex, our warrior draws his sword and tells the brute to stop the drama and get to work if he wants to live. Completely lost by the inverted order, the fighter blinks heavily, not understanding why the rookie slave is giving orders to an officer. Stabbing his sword into the ground with force, our boy ignores his friend's dumbfounded look and takes charge. Pointing to the monster on the ground, he announces with all the coldness in the world that this is their new prey. Blind with rage at the audacity, the brute bellows that the boy's logic is a joke and they should retreat. Grumbling to himself, the ex-champion complains that the butler must have lost his mind, putting him on a mission with a crazy-as-a-loon rookie. But staring at the black monster's body on the ground, even he realizes this is serious and the kid has talent. Understanding the confusion, the kid shows Cornell's dagger, proving he has an official mission and isn't just messing around. The boy lies smoothly, saying the order was to investigate anomalies in the Marquis' hunt, and while they were at it, get some decent food for themselves in the woods. Grumbling about his bad luck, the brute accepts the situation while pouring a healing potion on his own wounds. Sighing heavily, the warrior decides to swallow his pride and focus on the mission, since complaining wouldn't do any good. In a quick cut, the scene already shows several huge, bloody pieces of meat perfectly sliced in the middle of the camp. Finishing adjusting his armor, the partner walks away, grumbling about proving his own worth on this mission. Suddenly, his sense of smell picks up something that shouldn't be happening in the middle of nowhere. And when he turns around, he finds the boy roasting chunks of meat over a giant bonfire as if he were at a picnic. Completely panicked, the brute bellows, asking if the kid has lost all sense of danger making a fire in a monster zone. Besides the risk, the guy points out that all that meat should be delivered to the royal family's bosses as a trophy. Chewing the meat with his mouth full, our MC doesn't even blink and says there are plenty of beasts there, and eating a little piece won't be missed. Without any fuss, he extends a juicy piece of roasted monster meat right into his furious partner's face. Trying to maintain his tough guy act, the big guy pushes his arm away, calling the boy a crazy person with no respect for the rules. Laughing like a maniac, our warrior throws the irony in the brute's face of being a weaponless hero who gets beaten up by a cowardly officer. Provoking him heavily, he says it makes no sense to take a beating in silence, just to have the right to eat stinky rations every 3 days. Bringing the delicious meat closer to his partner's nose, the kid asks how a guard is supposed to protect the lord on an empty stomach. With an ironic smile, he promises not to snitch about the crime of eating the elite's food if the big guy stops the drama. Overcome by hunger, the ex-champion takes the piece of roasted meat on reflex, unable to fight his own instincts. Falling to his knees on the dirt ground, the warrior cries, swallowing the food desperately as if he hadn't eaten in weeks. Watching his friend's humiliation, our MC questions why such a monstrously talented guy lowers himself so much to serve the goons. Chewing with a grim face, the fighter retorts, saying that having raw strength doesn't change the unjust world. Pure brainwashing, the brute explains that the elite are seen as divine, and the rabble must suffer in silence to prove blind devotion to God. In his heavy delusion, he says his goal is to climb the slave ladder to give a better life to his little sister, who lives far away in the middle of nowhere. Pissed off, the partner bellows, asking if the boy is telling him to throw his entire family's dreams in the trash over some stupid pride. Clenching his fists in hatred, the warrior lays it on the line that being a slave is the only way, and trying to fight the big guys is certain suicide. With wide eyes, our boy scoffs, asking what's so special about this so-called divine power. With a mocking smile, he solves the riddle, throwing it in the big guy's face that it's nothing more than using a little bit of bogus magic. Annoyed by the blasphemy, the warrior doubts the kid can do any spells and tells him to prove his theory in practice. Full of swagger, our hero asks what his partner would do if he taught the rabble real magic to fight on equal footing. Utterly shocked, the brute freezes in place, stammering, unable to believe the rookie is serious. Right then, an absurd crack breaks the branch of a giant tree, catching both of their attention. With a crash, the wood falls, kicking up dust and startling the birds in the dark forest. In a cold sweat, the partners look toward the sound, realizing the heavy hunt was closer than they imagined. Cutting to a soldier, he screams in pain, his shoulder torn by sharp fangs. Nearby, a gray-haired captain yells desperate orders, trying to hold the troops' defensive line against a pack of blue fire wolves. Seeing the circle tighten, the veteran sweats bullets and curses his luck as the monsters advance relentlessly. Another lackey falls screaming, covered in blood, confirming that the entire troop was about to become Hellwolf dinner. Pinned against the wall of shields, the captain grinds his teeth, admitting he greatly underestimated the beasts of that anomaly. But suddenly, a clean, bright cut rips through the wind, decapitating a wolf in the middle of its lethal jump. Looking to the side, the gray-haired man's eyes widen as he sees the rookie tearing through the enemy line as if it were nothing. A warning shout then echoes from behind the troop, pointing to more fire wolves leaping through the forest sky. In a flash, the gray-haired leader's blood runs cold, realizing the beasts had already broken their rear defense. With pure, insane reflex, arrows fly, piercing the wolves' heads before they even touch the ground. Landing firmly after the jump, our boy adjusts the bow in his hand, showing he's here to clean up the mess. Arriving right behind, the big guy points his spear and announces that the rescue cavalry has just clocked in. With a predator's gaze, our hero assesses the weight of that insane hunt and decides to get his hands dirty. In his mind, the grimoire taught him that the blue flames, flesh, and bones of these beasts are worth a fortune on the black market. Knocking 3 arrows at once, he tells his companions he won't let a single wolf escape alive. And in a violent leap, the kid charges the pack like a human rocket. Firing in midair, he hits the monster's eyes with a precision that's terrifying to watch. Impressed, the gray-haired captain mutters in admiration, watching the boy suicidally throw himself into the middle of the beasts. Smiling at the danger, our hero realizes these wolves are all bark and no bite, only fighting in a pack. With a volley of crisscrossing arrows, the warrior wipes out the pack, proving none of them stand a chance one-on-one. Finishing the horror show, the boy hits the ground, rolling as he slings the bow onto his back. With a psycho smile, he draws his sword, confirming that the long-range warm-up is over, and now the fight's getting up close and personal. Charging head-on, the warrior draws his blade at the last second to avoid the flaming bite of a huge wolf. Dodging by a hair, he finds it bizarre how the beasts keep attacking like crazy, even after seeing their entire family wiped out. Twisting his body, our hero buries the steel in the beast's belly, cutting the attack short with an absurd impact. In the rear, the surviving guards are in shock, stammering as they witness the kid's monstrous strength up close. With its face torn by an arrow, one of the last wolves whimpers, trying to retreat from the massacre. The boy shows no mercy and coldly mutters that in the end, they're nothing but dumb little dogs. Seizing the opening, the pack advances from all sides, thinking they've cornered their prey. In a perfect spin, the hero's sword dances through the air, slicing the beast in half before its jaws can close. Drooling at the scene, the gray-haired captain can't believe the blue fire beast is being massacred with such ridiculous ease. Concentrating mana, our warrior prepares the final blow, closing his eyes and feeling the icy energy. Suddenly, a whip of blue aura explodes from the sword, cutting through the wind with an insane freezing power. Hit head-on by the magical whip, a wolf is mercilessly smashed into the ground. But the pack leader leaps forward, roaring, blue sparks flying from its mouth to avenge its sliced-up family. Drawing his weapon, the kid gives no quarter and riddles the last opponent with arrows in the middle of its bizarre leap. With a dull thud, the huge beast falls, riddled with arrows and its face completely deformed by the heavy blows. In a fatal spin, our MC slashes the last wolf's chest mid-leap. Kicking the carcass aside, the warrior clears the path and finishes the carnage in an epic back-turn pose. Hitting the ground with a thud, the beast spits blood as the boy slowly sheathes his blade. Staring at the pack's remains, his eyes gleam with pure adrenaline and focus on the mission of collecting the magic gems. Without wasting time, he shoves his hand into the wolf chief's body and rips out the core, overflowing with energy and blood. Beside him, the ex-gladiator warns everyone not to let their guard down, as danger could reappear from the shadows. With a smile, our hero congratulates his partner on the support while wiping his sweaty face. The big guy just scratches his head, admitting they worked really well together in that death zone. Walking slowly, the gray-haired captain approaches the duo, praising the rookie's monstrous skill and asking which troop they're from. Trembling nervously, the brute salutes, revealing they are the scum of the reserves serving the Lord under the orders of Butler Cornell. Shocked and offended, one of the soldiers bellows, asking what kind of joke it is for the butler to send rabble on a mission in the hellish forest. Annoyed, the suited-up guard grumbles angrily, calling the butler and the countess filthy dogs. Blinking in confusion, the brute asks if they were so openly cursing the mansion's missus. Ignoring all the elite gossip, our kid holds the purple stone up to the sun and assesses that this medium-level core is exactly what his pocket was missing. With the gem in hand, he decides right then and there to use the grimoire's secret teachings to craft a brutal potion immediately. Out of nowhere, the goon soldier yells, cursing our boy and telling him to stay away from the trophy. Drawing his sword, the jerk demands to know who gave the slave permission to touch the noble monster's spoils. Raising a hand, the gray-haired captain stops the fight, warning that the priority here is to complete the Marquis' main mission, not to steal some magic pebble. With a cynical chuckle, the kid mocks the soldier, asking if calling the guy who saved their skins a brat is the best way to say thanks. Pissed off, the goon's eyes widen, and he grinds his teeth at the commoner rookie's audacity. Out of control, the fool tries to charge, warning the boy not to celebrate too early, but the chief tells him to cool his head. Staring at the guards up close, our hero whispers the captain's name, remembering details from his past life. In a flashback, the warrior recalls the time he walked side by side with the Lord through the palace's fancy corridors. Back then, the Marquis was always mourning the death of the captain, and the elite guards very dramatically in front of the family portrait. Connecting the pieces, the boy realizes it was these very soldiers who died in the sinister forest, causing a collapse in the Lord's power in the future. Smiling mentally, the MC celebrates that he just altered the tragic fate of the elite guard, saving everyone's lives. Terrified by the tense silence, the ex-gladiator grabs our boy's arm, stammering apologies to the captain, claiming the rookie is crazy and doesn't know the rules. Suddenly, a deep, angry voice cuts through the air, cursing the guards and telling the old witch's dogs to shut up and stay out of the fight. Confused and shocked, the big guy's eyes widen, not understanding who had the guts to call the powerful countess an old witch in the middle of the woods. Cutting upwards, the camera reveals a warrior woman with an air of total authority arriving on the scene, throwing her weight around with utmost contempt. Ignoring the socialite gossip, the gray-haired captain focuses on the kid, admitting that his strength is no joke. Without beating around the bush, the veteran warns that if the boy keeps up this smart-aleck attitude, things are going to get ugly for him. Completely neutral, our MC doesn't even blink and listens to the guard chief's lecture without a peep. Turning his back, the captain coldly thanks him for the earlier help, but stresses that they need to finish the mission alone. The guys barely take 2 steps forward before the entire ground starts to shake, as if an earthquake is about to swallow the forest. Panicking, the troop huddles back to back, sweating, not understanding where that bizarre pressure is coming from. Immediately, a giant flock of crows takes flight, tearing through the forest sky, heralding the worst. From within the heavy bushes, dozens of blue flame wolves begin to emerge, surrounding the whole group. Trembling, the cowardly soldier stammers, asking what madness this is, with so many beasts in one place. But the tough warrior woman doesn't blink and points to the center, confirming they've run into the king of the pack. Behind her, a veritable sea of demonic beasts roars, making the woods tremble and trapping everyone with no way out. With red eyes glowing with hatred, the pack leader prepares its fatal pounce, focusing on the troop of humans. The guard immediately tries to form a circle, but desperation was already written all over their faces. The gray-haired captain yells desperate orders, telling everyone to hold the defensive line at all costs. But with an otherworldly impact, the Wolf King explodes towards them like a blue meteor, tearing the defense in half. Bleeding heavily, the captain coughs, feeling his ribs were crushed by the colossal beast's surreal blow. But before the monster can deliver the final bite, a silhouette crosses the air and blocks the deadly attack on pure reflex. Not understanding a thing, the gray-haired man's eyes widen as he sees our hero slash the Wolf King's snout with a heavy cut. Smiling at the danger, the kid scoffs, reminding him that this is the second time today he's saved the big shot's skin. Furious with the cut, the wolf leader lets out a roar that shakes the trees, calling the entire pack for a concentrated attack. Twisting his body, our warrior focuses all his strength into the old sword's blade, preparing a heavy response. With a bellow, he follows up with an insane upward slash he calls Mountain Breaker, throwing the giant beast backward. Crashing to the ground, the giant beast kicks up dust and rolls, trying to regain its aggressive posture. Taking a deep breath, the MC mentally admits that this enemy is a tough nut to crack and won't go down in one hit. Making the situation worse, the entire pack of smaller wolves decides to advance, drooling with hatred to avenge their wounded chief. Slicing through the smaller beasts, our hero tears through the pack, dodging deadly pounces with absurd agility. In a perfect leap, he sends another magic whip into the air, clearing the area around him in a second. Gripping his weapon, the boy realizes that his rookie body is starting to reach its stamina limit. He concludes that hand-to-hand combat alone won't be enough to take down that overpowered monster king. Arriving with the rear guard, the captain and the warrior woman ask if the kid is alive after that suicidal madness. With that look of pure ice, the Wolf King retreats and analyzes the battlefield, plotting its next move. At the same instant, the Sea of Fire Beasts obeys its leader and surrounds the troop of humans from end to end, with no escape route. In total panic, the cowardly soldier stammers that they barely handled the pups, and that fighting the king is asking to die right there. But with his usual coldness, our MC turns aside and tells the fool to stop whining and worrying about the smaller pack. Pointing his blade at the monster, he lays it on the line, saying these dumb animals only follow the absolute will of their leader. Understanding the strategy, the captain gulps, muttering that the suicidal plan is to take down the Wolf King with their bare hands. Trembling all over, the ex-arena champion yells that they're going crazy, and that their swords won't even scratch the colossal beast. With a sadistic smirk, our kid ignores the whining and throws it in their faces that if they don't try, they'll never know the outcome. Completely shocked, the big guy stammers, calling his partner a complete and irresponsible madman. Taking the heat, the captain agrees that whether they fight or flee, the result will be death anyway, so it's better to go down swinging. Turning his back, he orders the elite troop to hold their heads high and follow the rookie's insane plan without any more questions. Fixing his eyes on the beast chief, our hero says they just need to create a perfect little window of opportunity. Drooling flames, the big wolf roars again, ordering the pack's final attack to devour the humans whole. Sweating, the warrior woman grumbles about the absurd pressure of the mass attack while holding her sword firmly. Feeling the wave of monsters coming, the boy tells everyone to stay calm and hold their position at all costs. Fixing his gaze on the horde, he yells for the team to hold firm and lure the wolves right up to the shield wall. Pissed off, the cowardly goon bellows, asking who gave the kid the authority to order around the Divine Guard officers. But the gray-haired captain cuts the argument short, telling his subordinate to shut up and blindly follow the rookie's orders. Without wasting time, our warrior points to the big ex-slave and tells him he needs to cover the rear, no questions asked. To keep his partner focused, the hero throws the weight of the dream of making his little sister proud onto the brute's shoulders. The memory immediately hits hard, and the fighter freezes with the reality check planted in his mind. Just then the captain yells, warning that the wave of beasts has made contact with full force. With a giant crash, the first line of monsters slams against the troops' heavy shields, making the earth tremble. Even under pressure, the MC yells for the guys to hold on because it wasn't the right time for the counterattack yet. Maintaining his cool, he demands they let the pack sink deeper into the trap, shortening the distance. Drooling with hatred, the Wolf King leads the charge, forcing the human barrier to yield almost to its breaking point. In the perfect millisecond, the boy bellows at the top of his lungs, ordering the suicidal maneuver to be executed at once. By name, he calls the captain and orders the use of the special technique Sacred Shield to blind all the beasts. With a bizarre explosion of light, the veteran's wall shines golden, throwing a blinding wave into the pack's face. Without giving them a break, the hero already yells the cowardly soldier's name, telling him to sweep the front line with his sky-shaking blow. Full of rage and fear, the soldier screams, activating the heavy technique, bringing his sword down like lightning on the dirt ground. The impact of the blow creates a colossal fissure, throwing half the pack into the air in a cloud of fire and dust. On a roll, the kid yells the warrior woman's name, demanding she clear a path using her light attack. Without a second thought, the woman slices through the rest of the wolves in a sequence of perfect thrusts, tearing the beasts to pieces. Behind them, the captain's mind spins, seeing a bogus rookie organizing the guards' elite combos as if he knew every secret move. With a satisfied smirk, the boy tells the big guy to follow him at full speed to finish the bloody mission. Cutting through the last monsters in their path, the warrior woman clears a passage, cursing the beasts and opening a route to the pack leader. Beside the MC, the brute stammers, asking what madness that bizarre synergy with the elite was, all in the blink of an eye. Running like a madman, our warrior doesn't even bother to answer, 100% focused on the big monster awaiting him. With his usual deadly gaze, he mentally concludes that the tactic of scaring the king failed, because the wolves thought the humans would run if they got hit without fighting back. Without mercy, the boy mutters mid-leap that fighting beasts and fighting dumb people is the exact same thing. Confused, his friend stammers, asking him to translate the insane tactics into plain English, because he wasn't understanding any of the strategy. Ignoring his partner's slowness, our hero lays it on the line, saying he didn't need to get up close to destroy the target from a distance. Shocked, the ex-champion freezes upon hearing from the kid that swords aren't the only weapon in their arsenal. In a blinding, sinister glow, our hero's hands begin to charge an absurd amount of pure magic to end this fight for good. With his eyes glowing brightly, the boy invokes the Ice Lotus technique, tearing up the ground with pure magic. Like a bombardment, several ice spikes erupt from the ground, embedding themselves in the Wolf King's belly, who roars in pain. Watching from the sidelines, the ex-gladiator can't believe his bogus partner also masters high-level magic. Completely impaled on the ice, the big blue fire monster tries to struggle, shooting flames everywhere. Cold as always, our hero says he still has many more cards up his sleeve to show. Desperate, the colossal beast leaps, roaring with hatred, tearing through the air straight for the kid. In a perfect reflex, the brute partner appears in the air, wielding his spear to help with the final combo. Clashing head-on, the big warrior drives his weapon into the Wolf King's shoulder, holding the beast in place. Bleeding horribly, the beast tries to retaliate, but the weight of the attack pins it to the ground. With his hand sparking pure purple energy, our hero walks slowly and announces that the show is over for the beast. Suddenly, a dark ice knight forms around the boy in a colossal demonic aura. Faced with the terrifying invocation, even the Wolf King's blood runs cold, sensing that death has truly arrived. Panicked, the monster's pupils shrink as it tries to draw breath for one last, futile attack. In the blink of an eye, the Phantom Knight's sword comes down, cracking the beast's head with absurd force. The impact of the magic creates a monstrous vertical explosion that tears through the entire forest, splitting the Wolf King in half. Wreaking havoc, the magic attack turns the colossal beast into pieces of meat, splattering blood everywhere. With a dull thud, the Wolf King's severed head plummets to the ground, kicking up dust and silencing the forest for good. Unable to close his mouth, the big partner grumbles that what he just saw was simply impossible for a common human. Absorbing the monster's energy, our warrior holds the king's giant core while the other is shocked by his pure magic. Walking through the blood, the duo of elite soldiers arrives, asking if the two rookies are alive after that madness. The gray-haired captain strokes his beard and lays it on the line, saying the boys' bizarre plan to lure the king and scare off the pups worked perfectly. But out of nowhere, a leather boot steps on one of the shattered ice stones, catching everyone's attention. Cutting the mood, the purple-haired warrior woman bends down, picking up one of the crystals, and analyzing the cold magic still glowing within. In a nostalgic tone, she confesses to the captain that this destructive attack reminded her a lot of their old chief's glory days. Feeling nostalgic, the gray-haired man agrees with a nod, correcting that she's talking about Lord Marquis himself in his youth. Emotionally, the woman remembers they were lion-hearted knights, led by the Lord before the order was disbanded due to political betrayal. Hearing the gossip, the big guy whispers in the MC's ear that the woman is just spouting nonsense to suck up to the Lord. Pissed off by the whisper, the warrior woman yells at the brute, asking what the trash was calling her. Joking around, the partner crosses his arms and tells the lady to remember his name is Dak, not trash. With a purely psycho look, the woman's eyes widen, her blood boiling at the rookie's audacity. Trembling, the goon soldier pulls the captain aside and whispers, stammering, that this woman calls the countess old witch without fear. Panicked, the big guy's eyes widen, realizing he just insulted a crazy woman who doesn't even respect the mansion's bosses. Foaming with rage, the warrior woman advances with heavy steps, asking what about her looked old for him to have the courage to offend her like that. Scared to death, the brute tries to fix his blunder by complimenting her, saying she's in the prime of her beautiful and wonderful youth. But the argument is cut short when the gray-haired captain puts a hand on her shoulder and points to a new headache arriving. Ignoring the childish squabble, our MC already locks his gaze on the horizon, smelling the scent of a primed-up problem. In a mental flashback, the boy remembers people laughing at the air freed in his past life, thinking the kid was a real joke. Back in the woods, a fancy horse steps firmly, stopping right in front of the bloodied troop. Mounted in the saddle, the spoiled heir looks down with a disgusted face and asks what the heck is happening on his property. The elite guard immediately kneels, paying respect to the Lord's son, while our warrior remains standing, staring at the preppy kid. Glancing sideways, the heir notices the slave's defiance and furrows his brow, not liking the lack of reverence one bit. But when the rich kid turns his head, he gets a huge shock upon seeing the destroyed battlefield. Stammering, the gray-haired captain raises his head and tries to explain, saying they came to investigate the anomalies of the dark forest. With a bored look, the primed-up heir analyzes the surrounding massacre without giving it much thought. Pointing to the carcasses, the warrior woman explains that the entire troop was cornered by a bizarre pack of blue flame wolves. Praising the duo, the captain tells it like it is, saying that if it weren't for the raw strength of the two rookies, they would have already become monster dinner. Raising an eyebrow, the rich heir realizes the troop is praising the guy who stole his family name. Foaming with rage, the primed-up one grips his whip, remembering the humiliation our kid made him endure at the mansion. Trying to smooth things over, the gray-haired man suggests taking the boys to the Lord and reporting their absurd achievement to secure a promotion for them. Just hearing this, the spoiled son trembles in his saddle, furious at the idea of a slave scoring points with his father to steal his place as Lord. In his mind, the heir remembers his mother had already warned him that any success by the rookie could screw up the pure family's guaranteed future. In a cold sweat, the rich kid understands that if his father finds out the kid soloed a legendary monster, the succession is done for. With a look full of malice, the preppy kid locks his eyes on the big partner, scheming a way to ruin the party. Lowering his head, the brute's blood runs cold, feeling the heir's pressure weighing down on his neck. With a sadistic smirk, the rich kid finds the perfect pretext to screw over the duo without getting his hands dirty. Mockingly, the heir points to the big guy and says it's a miracle to see him loose in the woods, since he always follows his little sister around like a puppy. Using dirty rules, the primed-up one accuses the big guy of breaking the severe law of trespassing in the Forest of Death without official permission. Completely shocked, the partner freezes in place, feeling the clear threat against his own sister's life used as pure blackmail. In a demonic tone, the heir whispers that the fighter's little sister wouldn't like to know her big brother is disobeying the elite. Hearing the absurdity, our warrior can't take it, and concludes that a beating in life doesn't fix a spoiled brat who cries behind his mommy's back. Taking a step forward, our kid doesn't lower his guard and throws it in the rich kid's face, calling the guy a failure loud and clear. Hearing the insult, the crazy warrior woman can't hold it in and bursts out laughing, pointing at the humiliated heir. Foaming with pure hatred, the preppy kid bellows, gripping his whip and asking what the human trash just spewed. Full of mockery, our hero says the elite guard kneels to the heir out of obligation, not genuine respect. In the background, the soldier's eyes widen, gulping as the fight of the century unfolds in front of them with no filter. Continuing his little show, the warrior says the rich kid only has authority because he came out of the hag countess's womb, and nothing more. Mockingly, he feigns pity, saying it must be nice to act tough just because your parents are important big shots in the empire. Out of control, the heir threatens, saying a snap of his fingers is enough to send goons to wipe the scum off the face of the earth. With a demonic chuckle, our MC ignores the threat and throws the most humiliating final argument possible in the boy's face. In a childish voice, he scoffs, asking if before ordering the kill, the rich kid doesn't need to go cry and ask his mommy for permission first. Hit right in the ego, the Lord's son clenches his teeth, feeling the shame destroy his superior facade. Red as a beet, the preppy kid screams for the elite troop to arrest the defiant slave immediately. But before any guard can raise a sword, magic chains sprout from the earth, binding our warrior's body in a single blow. Caught by surprise, the kid turns his head, feeling the absurd pressure of the magic crushing his bones. Squeezing until they nearly break his wrist, the chains restrain the hero, showing that the noble betrayal ran much deeper. Bound by heavy chains, our warrior is dragged by a band of cloaked assassins. With glowing red eyes, the macabre goon tightens the chain, giving no chance of escape. In total shock, the gray-haired captain and the warrior woman recognize the guys as the blades of the empire. Tensely, the purple-haired woman explains that these brutal mercenaries belong to the Williams family. In her mind, the image of the hag countess comes up, who sent this elite troop just to protect her spoiled little son. Full of arrogance, the primped-up heir blatantly lies, saying the butler sent the troop to help with the investigation. Furious, the warrior woman faces the preppy kid and asks if he's going to turn against her too. Panicked, the gray-haired captain tries to make an excuse and stammers, not knowing what to do. Even in chains, our MC maintains complete composure and calls the captain by name, breaking the tense atmosphere. Straight to the point, the kid tells the troop to leave and report everything directly to the Lord without worrying about him. Surprised by the attitude, the veterans realize the boy is acting as a decoy for them to escape alive. Very quietly, the warrior woman warns that they can't take sides here, and the best thing to do is retreat discreetly. Frustrated with the cowardly situation, the gray-haired man clicks his tongue, tasting the bitter defeat. With their backs turned, the elite guards abandon the scene, while the rich kid gives a disgusting smile of victory. With a look of disgust, the heir scoffs, asking if he's finally understood that his life is in the hands of the elite. With a mocking chuckle, our hero challenges the rich kid, telling him to get the job done at once if he's a man. Satisfied with the nerve, the preppy kid lets out a malicious laugh, tasting the power. With his sword in hand, the coward announces to the four winds that he just had a wonderful idea. Suddenly, the villain shouts the brute's name, making the ex-gladiator jump in surprise. Casting a death glare, the primped-up one warns that every rebellious action has a heavy consequence. In a swift move, the heir drives his blade into the ground and offers the big guy a chance at redemption by taking the weapon. Full of malice, the rich kid gives the final order, telling the goon to execute his own slave friend. Utterly shocked, the fighter stammers, unable to believe the cruelty of the disgusting request. Promising to forgive all his crimes, the preppy kid plays dirty while our hero remains immobilized by the assassins. Suddenly, the boy's mind travels to the past, right to the first month of the demonic invasion. In the memory, the big guy appears, being mercilessly whipped in a monster camp, working like an animal. Tearing through the scene, the past MC appears, driving his sword into one of the orc guards to invade the place. The vision then shows the hero facing a gigantic demon lord sitting on a dark throne. Playing with people's minds, the monster plays a macabre game, giving the humans a terrible choice. Kneeling on the ground, our past MC awaits death while his brute partner holds a trembling sword. Desperate in the memory, the friend hears the monster's voice promising freedom if he kills his companion with his own hands. With a toothy grin, the demon lord applies maximum pressure, asking what the final decision will be. Full of fear, the warrior grips the hilt of his sword, preparing to strike. In the present, the scene repeats perfectly, with the big guy holding the weapon facing our chained hero. With a heavy step forward, the ex-arena champion seems to have made his decision. With empty eyes, the fighter begins to vent, saying his father died on his little sister's birthday. In a sad memory, he appears as a kid, hugging the little girl in the middle of the woods with nowhere to go. With his head down, our MC listens to the tragic story of their mother dying, and the two becoming the Marquis' slaves. Firmly gripping the sword, the partner reveals that the Countess sent the girl far away but consoles himself thinking she's safe from the monsters. In tears, the brute begs our boy to take care of his little sister in his place. In shock, the hero listens as his friend asks him not to spoil the girl too much with food, as she's a very picky eater. With thick tears, the warrior asks them to tell the girl that her older brother died as a true, honorable knight. In a sincere tone, the fighter prepares his soul for the final sacrifice in the middle of the forest. Without a second thought, the big guy charges forward, screaming with his blade pointed toward the group. Cold as ice, our hero remains bound in chains, just watching the outcome of that repeated nightmare. Stiff as a board, the big guy points the sword but can't bring himself to deliver the fatal blow. To break the mood, the rich kid calls the lackey's name in a voice full of venom. Mounted on his horse, the preppy kid questions the reason for so much hesitation in killing some random trash. With great courage, the ex-gladiator confesses that he can't kill the guy who saved all their lives in the forest. Raising an eyebrow, the primed-up heir lets out a murmur, feigning surprise at the loyalty. In a dirty move, the villain uses psychological terror, asking what the little sister would think if she knew she was abandoned for a stranger. Panicked, the partner's eyes widen, stammering that he would never do such a cruel thing to the girl. Full of malice, the rich kid says that the girl found out a knight needs a high-quality sword. Smiling sadistically, he reveals that the little girl stopped eating to save money and ended up collapsing from exhaustion last week. Pale as a ghost, the fighter goes into shock, feeling his world crumble on his shoulders. Pointing a finger, the preppy kid threatens that if the big guy abandons the girl, he will cut off her protection too. Completely broken, the warrior lets the sword slip from his hand, clattering on the dirt ground. Collapsing to his knees, the brute cries loudly, begging the rich kid to save his beloved little sister's life. From atop his horse, the heir takes a dramatic pause, savoring every second of the other's desperation. With a demonic smile, the coward gives the ultimatum, demanding our hero's death in exchange for the girl's life. With his head down, our hero lets out a dark laugh, repeating the murder order with pure mockery. Out of nowhere, the kid explodes into an insane, terrifying laugh, even though he's tied up from head to toe. Confused by the madness, the rich kid furrows his brow, asking what's so funny about this near-death situation. With a psycho look, the hero throws it in his face that even a street dog knows how to bark, but a cowardly weakling could never kill him. He doesn't understand his friend's suicidal provocation. Defying authority, the boy proposes a fight to the death against his partner just to entertain the spoiled heir. Pissed off, the preppy kid grinds his teeth, trying to figure out the crazy plan behind all that swagger. One of the assassins quickly presses a blade to our MC's neck to add pressure to the conversation. Thinking he's figured it all out, the rich kid smiles, believing the slave is terrified of the mercenaries and would rather fight his friend. With applause, the coward finds the idea interesting and authorizes the bloody duel to enjoy the show from his box seat. The magic chains immediately dissolve and fall to the ground, freeing our warrior from his bonds. Free again, the kid rolls his shoulders as the ex-gladiator picks up the sword from the ground with trembling hands. Getting into a combat stance, the big guy points his weapon at the hero, his heart heavy with guilt. Almost in tears, the partner whispers, asking if the boy is really serious about fighting to the death here. But the heir bellows the fighter's little sister's name, making the guy freeze and adopt a completely murderous posture by force. Blind with rage, the big guy charges, telling the hero not to make his little sister cry under any circumstances. On pure reflex, our boy dodges the heavy blow that comes down, tearing through the wind. Surprised by the speed, the ex-gladiator lets out a grunt of pure frustration. Without wasting time, our hero executes a violent leg sweep, sending his partner straight to the ground. Even on the ground, the brute raises his guard, startled by the rookie's absurd speed. With a crash, the swords collide as the hero brings his attack down with full force. From the impact, sparks fly from the blades, showing the level of brutality in the fight. Pressing his advantage, the boy forces his friend back while hearing him question the reason for all this. Cold as ice, our warrior apologizes, stating that he doesn't want to kick the bucket here either. Utterly shocked, the big guy freezes in place, understanding the kid's heavy message. Overcome with emotion, the fighter screams furiously and charges again with bloodshot eyes. Calmly, the hero slides to the side, making the brute hit nothing but air. Holding up 3 fingers, the boy coldly decrees that he will end the combat in just 3 moves. Full of swagger, he guarantees his promise out loud, warning that the game ends now. In a cold sweat, the ex-champion mutters, intimidated by his opponent's monstrous confidence and posture. Revolted by the mockery, the big guy retorts, shouting that he'll finish the job in just 3 seconds. Faced with the threat, our hero just cracks a cynical smile, as if he's already won the fight mentally. From afar, the primed-up heir watches the whole brawl from atop his horse with a bored expression. Stomping his foot hard, the ex-gladiator charges his target like a runaway truck. In the blink of an eye, the kid plants his feet to receive the impact with complete confidence. The blades immediately collide, generating a shockwave that kicks up dust across the scene. Right next to his friend's ear, the boy whispers for him to never abandon his partners in war. In that instant, the fighter freezes, feeling the weight of those words hit his conscience directly. The memory of a mysterious figure from the past suddenly invades the brute's mind. Completely losing focus, the ex-champion leaves his guard wide open for a mere second. Seizing the opening, the hero kicks the big guy's leg, breaking his attack stance. Watching the slip-up, the cloaked assassin's red eyes widen, surprised by the technique. In a perfect leg sweep, our warrior takes his friend off his feet without any pity for hurting him. Sent flying, the brute crashes into the rocks, kicking up a cloud of dirt and leaves. With a roar of pain, the poor guy falls defeated, confirming the end of the stage duel right there. Startled by the sudden crash, the rich kid's horse rears up uncontrollably as he screams in terror. The preppy kid's face then contorts with pure rage upon seeing his lackey defeated so quickly. Without wasting a single second, our MC is already leaping through the air straight for the rich kid. In a complete panic, the heir screams like a madman, feeling death flying towards him. In pure desperation, he concentrates an absurd amount of purple lightning magic in his hands to try and survive. In an insane clash, the boy's sword meets the villain's improvised electric shield head-on. Regaining his posture, the primed-up one scoffs, saying the trash knows how to fight a little after all. Returning the mockery, the hero cracks a psycho smile and tells him to never underestimate the rabble. Trembling with hatred, the rich kid completely loses his patience with the slave's gigantic audacity. In a violent explosion of lightning, the preppy kid throws our boy back to create distance in the arena. Landing smoothly, the warrior slides across the grass, maintaining total focus on the annoying enemy. Suddenly, a bizarre detail catches our hero's attention amidst the settling dust. From above, the villain bellows, ordering his own goons to retreat far from the fight at once. Freezing in place, the assassins obey as the heir shouts that the kill belongs to him alone. Cold and calculating, our boy just watches the light show prepared by the arrogant enemy. With a vein popping on his forehead, the rich kid bellows, releasing a monstrous electrical charge from his own body. A giant, rune-filled magic circle immediately illuminates the forest sky in purple. Lying on the ground, the big guy wakes up and his eyes widen, recognizing the terrifying spell that's about to blow everything up. At the same moment, the grimoire system beeps in the kid's mind, warning him of the absurd mana level. Gripping his sword, the hero grumbles that the game has gotten seriously dangerous this time. Looking at the system panel, he analyzes the overpowered and dangerous magical stats of his primed-up opponent. To make matters worse, the book mercilessly warns that his body won't be able to tank that destructive blow. Shrugging, the kid smiles cynically and decides to test his luck by facing it head-on. Full of ego, the preppy kid fires the deadly beam, wanting to show the overwhelming difference in divine power. In that exact millisecond, our warrior invokes his own awesome, cold magic to defend against the impact. In a titanic collision, the summoned ice spikes crash directly against the storm of purple lightning. Clenching his teeth, the MC pushes his magic to the limit to try and break the oppressive enemy offensive. Suddenly, a colossal explosion sweeps the scene, engulfing trees and rocks in a blinding white light. Shielding his eyes, the heir stammers in confusion, thinking he hallucinated seeing the slave use magic. From the dense smoke, a freezing slash tears across the battlefield, flying toward the primed-up lord. Startled, the rich kid raises an improvised electric barrier to hold back the wave of deadly cold. Completely lost, he wonders where the heck that heavy ice came from in the middle of nowhere. Tearing through the fog, our hero advances, mocking the villain's face, asking if that was the best of noble power. Enveloped in a murderous icy aura, the boy calls the heir useless and a complete failure. In the background, the assassins panic, unable to believe the human trash survived the apocalyptic attack. Still on the ground, the brute just watches the spectacle with his mouth open in shock. Biting his lip, the preppy kid tries to force himself to believe it's all just a dirty trick by the rabble. Foaming with rage, the villain bellows in revolt, stating that it's impossible for a filthy slave to use magical powers. Firm on the dirt ground, our hero vows that he will not lose to a cowardly brat, no way. Suddenly, a flashing red warning chills the hero's blood, informing him that his mana has completely hit zero. Without energy, the boy's body gives out and he collapses to his knees, utterly exhausted. Grinding his teeth, the warrior realizes the huge mistake he made by depleting his entire magic tank in a single combo. Trying to get up on sheer willpower, the kid lets out a groan of pain, feeling his muscles lock up completely. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees the purple electric storm returning with full force to wipe him off the map. With the face of a true psycho, the air screams at the top of his lungs, telling the enemy to burn in hell. In a colossal explosion of purple lightning, the entire forest scene trembles absurdly. Screaming in pure agony, our hero feels his own body fry with the overload of invasive magic. With his eyes glowing frighteningly, the boy desperately questions if this is the end of the line for him. Just then, the system beeps a lethal red alert, informing him that the lack of mana has activated rage mode. Clenching his teeth in rage, the kid swears he won't kick the bucket in such a pathetic place. Suddenly, sinister blue flames explode from his face, tearing through the enemy's magic. Covered in a dark aura and blue flames, the MC assumes the posture of a true, overpowered demon lord. Completely bugged out, the holographic panel shows the boy's attributes as unknown, startling even the kid himself. Confused by the situation, the warrior puts a hand to his face, trying to understand what bizarre power just awakened. The flames quickly begin to evaporate, and he realizes this insane mode has a very limited time. Without wasting a millisecond, he charges forward like a lightning bolt, promising to end the fight in the blink of an eye. Terrified, the primed-up heir's eyes widen, unable to believe a mere slave is using high-level magic. In a thunderous leap, the hero prepares a devastating aerial strike as the rich kid is shocked by the dark energy. In a deafening scream, the villain sees the blade of death descending straight for his head. The brutal impact of the weapon's clash immediately shatters the battlefield, creating a destructive wave. From the head-on collision, a mountain of ice explodes, sending the rich heir flying, horse and all. Spinning in the air, our MC gives no quarter and continues the frantic sequence of attacks. With a punch charged with pure blue magic, the boy mercilessly smashes his opponent's face. Cold and calculating, the warrior's dark gaze shows that the cat-and-mouse game is officially over. Desperate, the primed-up one tries to raise a lightning defense, but ends up completely swallowed by the crushing pressure. In a cold sweat of terror, the coward grinds his teeth, realizing that death is knocking hard on his door. Holding a trembling sword, the preppy kid lets out a curse, watching the disaster unfold right before his eyes. Like a shadow, our hero cuts through the air, slicing the wind and drawing blood mid-charge. Skidding across the dirt, the villain curses in frustration for taking a humiliating beating from a commoner. Panting, our hero lands with the blue aura burning intensely, consuming his stamina. Being very observant, the heir focuses his eyes and notices that the kid's gas tank is flashing on empty. Completely exhausted, the warrior gasps for air as the demon mode forcibly weakens. Full of ego again, the rich kid cracks a cynical smile, betting that his target has finally hit his physical limit. The villain immediately summons a storm of purple lightning, promising to carbonize the slave without a second thought. Even though he's broken, the hero plants his feet on the ground and readies his sword for one last, suicidal confrontation in the forest. In a deadly clash, the ice magic and purple lightning collide, tearing the dimension of the scene. Breaking the enemy's defense, the boy advances his blade, warning that Judgment Day has come as the rich kid freezes. From the colossal impact, a massive wave of energy sends rocks and dust flying everywhere. Face to face, the two warriors put all their remaining strength into a tense and desperate tug-of-war. Suddenly, a gigantic golden magic circle sprouts out of nowhere right between their blades, stopping both their attacks. With an absurd repulsion, the golden magic explodes, throwing the brawlers far away like rag dolls. Striding imposingly from the smoke, Lord Marquis Darius appears with his arm extended, ordering the nonsense to stop at once. Furious, the big shot gives them a major chewing out, warning that this is a hunting ground, not a gladiator ring. Mounted on his black horse, the old man orders that if they want to kill each other so badly, they should settle it in their own backyard. Trembling, the primed-up one swallows his tears, muttering his father's name with the most foolish look on his face. Almost passing out, our hero recognizes the Lord's authority as the blue flames finally die out. Unable to support his own weight any longer, the kid collapses to his knees on the ground, sighing in relief that the danger has passed. Observing the sinister damage, the Marquis analyzes the whole scene with an unreadable, dark expression. Finally, his limit is reached, and our warrior falls face first into the dirt, losing consciousness completely. Cutting to a few days in the future, the image focuses directly on a fancy ceiling full of lit chandeliers. Slowly opening his eyes, our hero wakes up disoriented, asking where the heck he's ended up. He suddenly sits up in bed, his eyes widening in a huge shock at the change of scenery. To the kid's surprise, the room is pure luxury, proving he's out of the filthy rabble's barracks. Staring at his own hands, he lets out a sigh of relief for having come out of that demonic berserk mode in one piece and without any side effects. Over in the corner, the brute Dak appears with his arms crossed, asking if Sleeping Beauty has finally decided to get up. Still a bit out of it, the hero looks at the big guy, trying to connect the faded pieces of his memory. The boy immediately jumps back, terrified by the ex-gladiator's worn-out zombie-like face. With deep dark circles and pale skin, the partner gives a macabre good morning, forcing the creepiest smile in the world. Calmly, the big guy explains that after that intense confrontation, the kid simply passed out cold in the woods. In a quick memory, the gray-haired captain carries the unconscious rookie while the rich kid throws a fit, and the partner has a panic attack. Hearing the dramatic account, our warrior finds the confusion amusing and calls the fighter an exaggerator. Placing his boots on the clean floor, the boy gets ready to get up and back to the usual hustle. With a monstrous stretch, the hero realizes he's fully recovered and says he's going to thank the guard while looking for some grub. Just then, the big guy remembers an important detail and points to himself, taking the credit. Full of genuine gratitude, our MC gives a smile and thanks him from the heart for all his loyalty in the forest of death. Completely embarrassed, the brute's cheeks turn red as he mumbles that the kid has manners after all. The aerial view then cuts to the giant, bustling courtyard of the Marquis city, in full swing. Walking casually down the street, the servants already start pointing and whispering, recognizing the figure of the troublemaking rookie. Not understanding the gossiping audience, the boy asks his friend what the hot gossip of the day is. In the hallways, the maids whisper in shock about the rumor of the slave who mercilessly crushed the heir lord. Boldly approaching, the hero tries to fish for info, directly asking what they're saying about him and the rich kid. With a hysterical scream, the girls take off running, terrified as if they had just encountered death itself. In a cold sweat, the big guy finds the scene ridiculous and compares the girls' reaction to someone seeing a ghost. With a slightly stern face, the MC repeats the word ghost, not really liking his reputation as the village boogeyman. Joking around, the kid blames his partner's zombie face for their escape as the two burst into laughter, trading jabs. Suddenly, a heavy military boot lands in the middle of the street, blocking the duo's path. Looking up, the hero lets out a sharp, sarcastic remark upon recognizing the suited-up guards, while the big guy freezes behind him. Foaming with pure hatred, the one-eyed elite captain appears, his mood turning foul, and calls the kid the future great lord in a disgusted tone. Bellowing, the villain tells the brute not to get involved as the partner gulps and quickly apologizes, backing away. But the one-eyed man's tough guy act turns to dust when he freezes, shocked by the cheeky response the MC throws right back at him. Foaming with rage, the one-eyed captain says he's back to settle the score from their last fight. Faced with the threat, our hero just maintains a bored expression, not caring in the slightest. Full of excuses, the villain tries to justify himself, saying he was caught by surprise last time. In a super confident gesture, the coward snaps his fingers to signal an attack. With a furious look, he guarantees that this time the story will be very different. At that moment, the entire guard appears, surrounding our MC and his brute partner. Once again, the captain snaps his fingers, expecting an ambush that simply doesn't happen. Cold and calculating, the boy remains silent, just observing his opponent's embarrassing moment. In a cold sweat, the suit tries to snap his fingers again, already realizing something's gone wrong. Completely out of control, he bellows, demanding to know from the soldiers why they didn't attack on his signal. Trembling, the goons whisper that the rookie is a monster and picking a fight with him is suicide. Seeing the others' desperation, the ex-gladiator and the hero let out a chuckle at the pathetic situation. Pissed off, the one-eyed man calls his men cowards, but realizes he can't back down without losing respect. With a malicious smile, the trash decides to settle the matter himself with a cowardly move. A bit awkwardly, the big guy Dak tenses up as the enraged big shot approaches. Overly confident, the suit firmly believes he can handle the fighter on his own. In a dirty move, he grabs the partner by the collar, calling him an ungrateful traitor. Startled, the ex-champion freezes as the villain says he's going to punish him in the primed-up heir's place. Preparing a brutal punch, the one-eyed man brings his fist down with full force, aiming for the poor guy's face. Suddenly, a loud crack echoes as our warrior's hand blocks the attack in midair without effort. In total shock, the captain's single eye widens, not understanding how he was stopped so easily. Staring firmly, the kid warns that that piece of trash has no right to judge anyone there. Without any patience, the MC shoves the aggressor forcefully, breaking the coward's posture. Stumbling backward, the villain sweats, outraged by the slave's audacity to challenge him again. At that exact moment, heavy footsteps draw the attention of the entire crowd in the courtyard. Annoyed, a gray-haired veteran bellows, asking why there's so much shouting so early in the morning. Behind him, the elite team complains that they can't even have their coffee in peace with all the commotion. Celebrating internally, the one-eyed man cracks a sadistic smile, thinking the rookies are toast in the hands of the elite. The scoundrel quickly kneels, sucking up to the veterans and promising to report the problem. Pointing a finger at our hero, he blatantly lies, saying he was just teaching the rebellious slaves some manners. Ignoring the coward's falsehood, our hero raises a hand and greets the veterans with complete calm. Revolted, the one-eyed man calls the boy insolent, asking if he has any idea who those authorities are. To everyone's surprise, the gray-haired man lowers the scoundrel's arm, laughing and celebrating a one-bet. Completely lost, the goon captain's eye widens, not understanding a single thing that's happening. Surrounding the hero, the elite troop jokes about who won the money, completely ignoring the villain. With a pale face, the suit thinks he's hallucinating and wonders if this is a nightmare. Stammering, he tries to pull rank, saying servants can't fraternize with the elite because of the castle's rules. The purple-haired warrior woman immediately grabs the trash's shoulder, warning that they couldn't care less about the old witch's laws. Casting a murderous glare, she tells the guy to shut his mouth if he doesn't want to lose his one remaining eye. Paralyzed with terror, the suit falls silent as the guard leader tells everyone to get out of there. With a slight smirk, our warrior scoffs, telling the one-eyed man that he's won this round too. The scene then cuts to several giant mugs of beer clinking in a cheerful toast. At the bar table, the gray-haired captain confesses he was going to thank them for the rescue in the forest, but ended up being saved from the annoying one-eyed man too. A bit flushed, the purple-haired woman states that she hated the cocky big shot and that the alliance with the heroes was a godsend. Curious, the brute partner asks if she had some old beef with that annoying vice-captain. Chugging her drink, the warrior woman dodges the question, saying that remembering the guy ruins the beer. To cut the lighthearted mood, the gray-haired leader clears his throat, getting the whole table's attention. In a super serious tone, the veteran makes an official invitation, asking the duo to join the family's elite guard. Choking in surprise, the big guy can't believe the offer, while our hero remains completely calm. Explaining the perks, the old man guarantees the promotion would bring the same luxury as the high-ranking servants. With the utmost calm, our hero directly refuses the offer, saying he has no interest in that position. With a mysterious smile, the boy reveals that his ambitions are absurdly greater than that. Taking a sip of his beer, he leaves the suspense hanging in the air, blowing the minds of the officers present. Without fear, the kid states in no uncertain terms that he wants the ultimate prize of that place. In silence, the team of veterans stares at the rookie, completely shocked by the young man's audacity. Out of control, one of the soldiers bellows for him to forget the idea of becoming lord, thinking the victory against the heir was pure luck. The purple-haired woman quickly interrupts, stating that it wasn't swordsmanship but real magic. Without wasting time, she drops the bombshell, saying she knows all about the spells used against the Wolf King. Pale with shock, the elite soldier doesn't understand how a street slave would have access to such advanced magical studies. With his eyes fixed on the boy, the gray-haired captain demands a clear explanation for this dangerous secret. Caught by surprise, our warrior concludes that the elite really did notice the magic at play during the hunt. Slamming his mug on the table, he mentally thanks himself for already having a perfect excuse ready. Worried about his partner, the brute Dak awaits the outcome of that tense conversation. With her eyes gleaming with curiosity, the warrior woman announces that she's uncovered the absolute truth about the rookie. Tense with the pressure, the hero braces for the worst, awaiting the guard's final accusation. Pointing a finger at him, the woman gives a victorious smile, full of confidence in her own deduction. In a scandalous shout, she asserts in the middle of the bar that the boy is an ex-noble disguised as a slave. Grabbing the kid's shoulders, she freaks out with excitement, swearing her instincts are never wrong. Completely lost in her own world, the soldier creates an entire fanfiction, saying he's a betrayed heir seeking to reclaim his power. Like a hallucination, our MC appears in her imagination as a tragic, suffering hero in the rain. With a completely dumbfounded look, the boy can't believe the crazy theory they pulled out of a hat. Not wanting to spoil the moment, he lets out a fake, nervous laugh while the big guy buys the story hook, line, and sinker. Like a soap opera actor, the hero feigns emotion, saying he couldn't believe he was unmasked so quickly. Covering his face to fake crying, he invents a sad past about running away from home to avoid being killed. In an Oscar-worthy performance, he swears vengeance against the noble villains while the troupe cries in pity at the story. His mind racing with worry, the big guy grumbles, doubting the elite captain will swallow that bogus story. Patting his partner on the back, the gray-haired man swears to keep it a secret, promising not to interfere with the hero's plans at all. Pulling the boy aside, the veteran advises him not to use magic in front of the Hag Countess or the heir again. He then informs them that Lord Marquis wants to have a serious talk with the duo at the mansion as soon as possible. Sneaking out of the bar, the rookie duo walks through the streets with full bellies and their mission accomplished. Behind them, the veteran troupe waves, celebrating the secret alliance they just formed. With his arms crossed, the gray-haired man mutters, intrigued, remembering that the hometown the kid mentioned is very far away. Walking down the street, the brute partner mentions that he's still surprised the lie actually worked. Full of questions, he asks where the MC got the idea to invent that he was a persecuted noble from that specific city. Super chill, the boy shrugs and replies that that place has always been a real snake pit of mysteries. Reviewing his mental maps, he knows the city is in a forgotten corner, which makes any investigation extremely difficult. Smiling at his partner, the hero tells him straight up that the story was just a smokescreen to throw off the palace spies. Just then, the fighter scratches his head, remembering the strange hand signal the boy made during the duel in the forest. Raising his hand again, the MC repeats the three-finger gesture and asks if the big guy knew the signal. Suspicious, the ex-champion crosses his arms and asks if that was just another trick to fool the jerky rich kid. The scene suddenly cuts to the past, where the duo is at a night camp training with swords in the middle of the woods. With a firm gaze, the hero raises his weapon and apologizes to the big guy for what's about to happen. Closing his eyes, the brute just accepts his heavy fate without saying a word. The memory immediately cuts to action, and our kid slashes the back of an orc demon with a brutal cut. Stepping on the dead monster, the boy scoffs, warning that the excuse to save his friend's little sister was way too flimsy. Covered in blood, the hero drives his sword into a rock and bellows for the monster chief to hear his message loud and clear from afar. In an insane fury, he charges the giant beast, concentrating pure magic at the tip of his blade. Slicing through the air, a destructive beam of blue energy flies through the wind toward the enemy. Amused by the audacity, the orc lord cracks a terrifying smile and scoffs at the piddly little attack. Blocking with a colossal axe, the monster holds back the charge, and the warrior's blade erupts in pure blue flame. In a cold sweat, our hero spits blood, feeling his muscles give out as he tries to hold back the monster. Staring at his prey up close, the demon lord's red eyes widen as he asks if the kid thought he could beat him alone. But in the blink of an eye, the brute partner appears, flying in an absurd leap from behind the monster. With his sword ready for the kill, the big guy roars, announcing that he's also alive and ready to fight. Feeling the shadow of death approaching, the orc lord turns its head, startled by the double ambush from behind. With a monstrous crash, the two warriors drive their swords into the beast, sending it to the ground in a gush of blood. Slicing through the wind, our hero lands, panting heavily after the insane physical effort to finish the boss. Completely exhausted, he drags his swords across the ground, covered in the defeated creature's blood. Tossing his axe aside, the big guy arrives, shouting that his friend's last words were ridiculous and dramatic. Full of swagger, the kid turns his head, yelling back that the brute would have been orc mince if he hadn't helped. Wiping the blood from his face, the partner seethes with rage, wanting to know why he pulled that suicidal stunt without warning. In a twisted justification, our hero retorts that if he had freed the prisoners right then, the monster would have sliced everyone up. Out of control, the fighter yells, demanding a heads-up or a secret signal before such a kamikaze tactic. Mocking him, our warrior pouts, asking if he should have shouted the plan for the orc lord to hear. Utterly frustrated, the big guy stomps his foot, grumbling about the lack of communication as the troops celebrate. In the present, the current hero snaps his three fingers, reminding his ex-gladiator friend of their old promise. With a smirk, the kid says this is the secret signal to act without thinking and go with the flow of the fight. Straight up, he says that no matter the situation, if he shows the signal, true allies must attack without hesitation. Hearing the explanation, the ex-champion just crosses his arms, rolling his eyes and finding the whole swagger insufferable. Back in the memory, the big guy calls the MC stubborn and predicts he'll end up captured again with these suicidal antics. Cutting the heavy mood with a smile, our hero lies that he learned the signal at the Slave Association. Smiling bitterly, he confesses the tactic came from a longtime friend, a stubborn and tough-as-nails guy like no other. Confused, the brute furrows his brow, trying to remember any famous lunatic in the arena with that profile. Cutting to the palace, the two hear Marquis Darius's permission and open the giant double doors. Walking down the fancy carpet, the warrior duo enters the luxurious office of the family head, who has his back to them. Turning slowly in his armchair, the lord gives a welcoming smile and asks directly how their health is. Taking a step forward, our hero gives thanks, stating he's already fully recovered thanks to the castle's amenities. Super humble, the ex-gladiator bows his head and pays his respects to the big shot. Without beating around the bush, the veteran sighs heavily, announcing he called the duo for a very important reason. Reading some reports, he confirms that the hunt in the forest got completely out of control, and he needs to talk about the Monster King incident. Feeling guilty, the big guy lowers his head, taking the blame for trespassing in the danger zone without the council's permission. But with his back turned, the Marquis says he's known the gray-haired captain and his men for many, many years. Showing an old painting, he reveals he's survived true massacres with that troop of knights, and those guys are his flesh and blood. With regret in his voice, the old man admits he can't even imagine the pain of losing his entire elite team to the monsters. In a heavy, sincere tone, the lord turns and thanks the two commoners from the bottom of his heart for saving his loyal veteran's skins. Head bowed, the big guy feels the weight of the words, lamenting that they could have prevented the minor deaths if they had arrived sooner. Giving a moral pat on the back, the Marquis dismisses the responsibility, saying the boys did nothing wrong. The lord himself swallows his pride and says the blame for not foreseeing the giant wolf pack falls entirely on his shoulders. Changing the subject, the old man turns his back again and brings up the invitation made by the elite guard back at the bar. With his usual firmness, our hero refuses the offer directly to the chief's face with a cold no. Raising an eyebrow, the Marquis finds it amusing and asks if the big guy also wants to snub the fancy position. In a cold sweat and desperate, the brute stammers like a machine gun, afraid of offending the big shot. Terrified, the partner stammers nonstop, asking if a slave like him can even dream of a spot as an officer in the elite. With his face flushed with embarrassment, he tries to refuse out of lack of confidence, feeling unworthy of the awesome promotion. But summoning courage from beyond, the big guy clenches his fists and bellows that he would love to be an official knight. Satisfied with the answer, the lord nods slowly and asks our hero what real reward he wants instead of the position. Looking directly into his partner's eyes, our hero already had his masterstroke ready to play. In a super calculated tone, he mentions the brute's little sister, who suffers working in the cold lands of their enemies. Demanding his prize, the boy tells the Marquis to bring the girl into the palace and shelter her under the Hall family's wings. Utterly shocked and paralyzed, the ex-champion's eyes widen, unable to believe his crazy partner's absurd generosity. Maintaining a serious pose, our boy confirms the request and says he wants his partner's little sister here in the palace. Giving a good justification, he states that the little girl has fragile health and the big guy needs to take care of her up close. Impressed by the noble act, Lord Marquis asks again if that's really all he wants. Looking at the fighter trembling with emotion, the hero lays it on the line, saying he can't abandon a comrade in arms in their time of need. With his eyes full of tears, the ex-champion's eyes widen, unable to form a single word of thanks. Agreeing to the request, the old man finds the reward fair and authorizes the girl's transfer immediately. In a satisfied murmur, the lord approves of their loyalty as the warrior duo thanks him together. With his back turned, the Marquis warns that it will take a little while to bring the girl, as it involves the Williams family and the Countess's goons. Dismissing the big guy from his office, the lord says he needs to have a private chat with our hero. The heavy door then closes, leaving just the two big shots in the middle of the luxurious and silent hall. Casting a serious look, the veteran brings up from the depths the day the kid challenged the disgusting suit back in the gladiator arena. Recalling the tense moment, the lord says that on that day he already figured out the boy was no ordinary slave, not by a long shot. More than his raw strength, the old man reveals that what caught his attention was him taking a magic attack to the chest and just walking it off. But the main gossip comes now, when the Marquis mentions the humiliating beating the spoiled heir took in the Forest of Death. Right then, the memory of the dark aura and blue flames flashes on screen, proving the chief already knows about the whole demonic show. Looking deep into the boy's soul, the Lord raises the hypothesis that a persecuted noble could indeed hide such a bizarre strength. Without showing any fear, our warrior returns the chief's calculating gaze. Cold as ice, the kid snaps his fingers, creating dozens of floating ice spikes in the office air. Playing the humble card, our hero swears up and down that he's just an ordinary guy trying to survive hell. Surrounded by the intimidating magic ice, he scoffs, saying he only knows a few basic spells to avoid dying easily. Laughing at his own lie, the hero deduces that for such a powerful lord, this magic must seem like a cheap circus trick. Impressed by the boy's audacity, the Marquis stares at the ice spikes, highly doubting that slave's story. Getting closer, the old man demands the unvarnished truth, asking who the heck the kid is and what he wants in the end. In a stroke of genius, our MC changes his strategy and starts playing the Lord's game, stroking the veteran's ego. Thumping his chest, the warrior showers the Marquis with praise, calling him the greatest lord to ever walk that empire. Clenching his fist, he swears loyalty and says he respects those who value raw strength far more than pure noble blood. With his eyes shining, the boy lays it on the line, saying his ideal is the same as the chief's, to end this disgusting aristocratic nonsense. Playing his final card, the kid promises he will train like a demon and surpass the Lord's strength in the future. In a promise forged in hatred, the hero vows he will sweep away the hierarchy and be the greatest and strongest leader they've ever seen. And to prove his loyalty, he guarantees he will be the absolute winner of the selection test the family is setting up. In absolute silence, the Marquis processes the rookie's entire ambitious and courageous speech. But out of nowhere, the veteran explodes into a loud, unrestrained laugh, finding the kid to be the most interesting figure he's ever met. Grabbing some papers from the table, the old man says he wants to see if the boy's sword is as sharp as his tongue. Asking for permission, our hero gives a polite bow and turns his back to leave the office. Before the boy passes through the door, the Lord raises a hand and asks one last question to test his memory. Straight to the point, the Marquis throws the name Rowan into the air, wanting to fish for a reaction from the rookie. Blinking in confusion, the warrior repeats the name out loud, showing he has no idea who the guy is. Quickly covering it up, the veteran says it was nothing important and dismisses the boy for good. Stepping out into the hallway, the kid lets out a relieved sigh, but his head already starts to spin, trying to remember that name. Staring out the office window, the Marquis analyzes the ex-slave's genuine confusion in a very calculated way. From behind the curtains, the spy butler Cornell emerges from the shadows, already prepared for his gossipy report. With a sadistic smirk, the lackey guarantees that if the boy isn't a disguised noble, then he's the greatest genius to ever walk the earth. Thoughtfully, the butler agrees that the kid genuinely didn't know the password Rowan, used in the City of Fallen Nobles. Even so, the suit suggests the guard not let their guard down, because the boy could be playing dirty with ulterior motives. Running his hand over the table, Lord Marquis mutters that there's already a dangerous precedent unfolding in the castle's corridors. Staring at a fancy family portrait, the veteran remembers the Viper Countess and the schemes that run rampant under his own roof. Interrupting his thoughts, the butler adjusts his suit and pulls a mysterious letter from his jacket to hand to his boss. Startled by the speed of the message, the Lord takes the envelope, wanting to know what disaster the cat's spirit has sniffed out this time. Acting serious, the Marquis mutters the secret instructions and tears open the paper, already expecting the worst. Outside the window, the shadow of the so-called spy cat leaps over the walls, disappearing into the leaves like smoke. Cut to a room packed to the ceiling with chests, where our MC is organizing the absurd payment he received for his hunts in the forest. Looking at the mountain of rare potions, expensive materials, and pure gold, the boy celebrates that the Lord kept his promise and wasn't a cheapskate. Sitting on the bed, the warrior analyzes his loot and racks his brain, trying to remember who the heck this Rowan guy the old man mentioned is. Scratching the back of his neck, he grumbles that he only heard that name from the big guy Dak in his previous life, and only vaguely. Pissed off by his lack of memory, the kid realizes the Marquis asked the question with pure venom, thinking the answer was obvious. Giving up, he stops thinking and mixes some glowing liquids in a vial, deciding to focus on what really matters now. Taking a sip of the stuff, he vows that later he'll squeeze the ex-gladiator until he spills the beans about this Rowan guy. Swallowing the last sip of the bitter potion, the boy feels the magic burn as it goes down his throat. Sitting on the floor, the hero takes a deep breath, preparing his body to activate the intense training again. Focusing his mind, he bellows grimoire and opens the awesome system, which glows brightly in the middle of the room. Floating like a ghost in the air, the magic book projects infinite pages, creating a heavy magic circle around the boy. Without wasting time, he chugs more potions, wanting to suck up every possible drop of power. Tossing the empty vials to the floor, the kid enters a trance as the system's macabre knowledge invades his mind. Focused on his goal, he mutters the order to absorb all the raw mana from the magic core he stole from the Wolf King back in the forest. The grimoire immediately obeys and shoots blue light rays, connecting the hero's body to the icefire crystal. Gritting his teeth in pure pain, he feels the absurd energy crushing his veins as if they were about to explode. In a violent flash, the magic penetrates his skin, burning from the inside out during the absorption process. Breathing heavily, the kid hears the system beep, announcing he's gained 1 miserable point of magical power. Utterly exhausted, he grumbles, remembering the grimoire warned that consuming beast cores raw didn't give much of a bonus. With a trembling hand, the hero mixes more reagents in a test tube, warning that he can't become dependent on turning into a demon and depleting his mana. Chugging the rest of the slimy liquid, he scowls in disgust and complains that this slop tastes like pure garbage. With his stomach churning, he coughs badly, saying that if he drinks any more of that, he'll end up puking all over the room. Pissed off by the slow progress, the boy checks his mana, which is stuck at 20, and complains about the lack of a faster way to level up. Just then, the holographic panel throws a notification in his face, announcing it has detected an awesome item and teaching him how to forge a magic tool from scratch. Raising an eyebrow, the warrior analyzes the brightly glowing core and smiles, finding the idea of creating his own arsenal interesting, to say the least. Reading the instructions on the holographic panel, our boy's eyes widen, super excited by the idea. Concentrating all his energy, he crushes the Wolf King's core, feeling the magic pulse strongly in the palm of his hand. With a focused look, the hero whispers the activation words the grimoire system taught him. The giant shadow of a golden demonic blacksmith immediately rises behind him, striking a colossal hammer. Feeling the absurd pressure, the kid focuses on the mental image of the item he needs to create. In a cold sweat, he imagines every detail, wanting to forge something practical and discreet for combat. Clicking his tongue, the warrior decides on the final shape and goes for it with the spell. In the blink of an eye, the phantom blacksmith's hammer comes down, tearing through the air straight for the glowing core. Smiling with satisfaction, our hero just watches the spectacle of golden light meticulously forging the item. With a deafening boom, the final impact spreads divine rays throughout the luxurious room. Outside, the dead of night hides the explosion of magic happening inside the stone mansion. When the dust settles, the boy remains seated, surrounded by a golden aura of pure energy. The light slowly fades and the system beeps, confirming that the creation of the magic tool was a complete success. Staring at his wrist, the kid admires the stylish blue bracelet that now carries the powers of the Wolf King. He quickly grabs another potion vial with a mischievous smile to test the bonuses he just gained. Chugging the potion, the hero wrinkles his nose at the bitter taste, but feels the immediate effect. In the same second, the panel beeps, announcing that his magic has jumped to level 22 without any effort. Clenching his fist, the warrior celebrates the overpowered bracelet that doubles his absorption stats just like that. But analyzing the screen, he furrows his brow, not understanding what the second ability, Wild Intuition, is all about. Turning his head in confusion, the kid suddenly notices that his eye is glowing like a car headlight. Blinking heavily, the MC activates the bizarre vision mode, which reveals everything around him in a dark, infrared way. Cutting to the walls, the vision shows the silhouettes of the gossiping maids outside, their hearts beating in bright red. Startled, the women freeze in the hallway, feeling a bad chill run up their spines as if they were being hunted. Excited by his new toy, the hero realizes the ability allows him to read the life energy of those around him through walls. Scanning the entire mansion, he sees the magical power level of each elite guard on patrol down below. Suddenly, his golden eye widens, focusing on 2 monstrous silhouettes overflowing with mana on the floor above. Gulping, the boy recognizes that those monsters are Marquis Darius and the hag Countess Katrina. But before he can blink again, a dark, sinister voice echoes in his head, whispering in the dark void.